Are we live? We are live. Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, hello. We are here today to um finally bring Jeb to court about all his wrongdoings he's done against minorities. Today's the court against Jeb. People versus Jeb. So,
I'm
do you
I'm
have any opening
sorry.
statements?
Um. Oh no, I can't swear.
I
Ah. Um. I'll do it again.
do.
I
Oh
don't regret
no.
anything.
Oh no.
Well,
The towels are
you're
being
right.
hit again.
Your Honor, the defendant was simply being a little guy. He was simply doing a little
Simply
trolling.
being a little guy. You missed the key word. Silly little guy. But whatever. Hey
I'm
hot
sorry for
people, how's
doing.
it going? We're great. Well, I'm great. I don't know about these three, but I don't care about them either, so. Also,
I'm
Chad, tell me
sorry.
how the audio levels are, because I think I might be way higher than the rest, but I'm not sure.
Yo,
I was silent so Jeb could finish what he was saying. He decided not to.
I
It's
was
fine.
about to say this Middlesbrough versus Norwich on the TV, the best football game.
Yo, actually, that is
Yeah.
interesting. Is there anything on TV right now? Any match that I can watch? Did you know that my team yesterday lost at the 88th minute, conceded a goal? At the equivalent of the FA Cup in Brazil. That's pretty sad. I think you're
Probably
sounding pretty
deserved.
good, Sky. Thank you. Alright,
There's other
just let me
people.
know if anyone thinks my audio is way higher than the rest, or if Zod is quieter than
Hi.
usual. Hi, Zod.
Hi.
There you are. I went to 5 funerals in the past month alone. Wait, what is the joke here?
I hope you had a good time. A bit of laughs.
Who's winning? Yeah, who's winning? Middlesbrough or Norwich?
Neither, because it's been 3 minutes and both teams are not
Wow,
any
imagine
good.
not scoring a goal within 3 minutes. Norwich fell off, man.
Norwich, more like Norwich.
Ayo.
No
Um,
Premier League for them. I
they were in the Premier League pretty recently, weren't they?
think they were in last season or the season
I think it
before.
was the season
Definitely the season
before, but I
before.
think they, they went down last place. Um,
Yes, they always do that.
okay, so ESPN says they're showing a game of the French league, but it's actually a tennis match, so that's pretty helpful. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, maybe the title of the stream. Oh, well, Madvik, we were talking about something else. We haven't even touched on the topic of the stream. But yeah, that is true. That is a joke. That makes sense now, Madvika. Thanks for explaining. Um,
Yo, it's an interesting table.
sure. Anyway, hey people. We today will cover a critical drinker video. Very innovative. I know we've never done that before. Um, but people seem to like it when we do, and he is a good source for content. So why not? You know. Um, beyond that, there's a lot of people who have been asking about the flash reactions in the comments. Hey, they're coming again. Sunday, hopefully, we'll have a new one out already. So, yeah, you can stop asking. I also did a community post saying that they would be back this week. So, like, yes, we are. We are going to upload the rest of them, and we've watched every episode. So, yeah. Flash, Goldface. Sorry, Goldface is the title character, not Flash. Um, Yeah. Beyond that, jeez, it's been a while since we streamed last. I think I forgot how to do it. It's recommendation corner. That's it. I fucking love Critical Drinker. He's a cool guy. Cool videos, cool titles, cool edits, cool stuff, cool guy, cool. It's a odd bad moment. But anyway, recommendation corner. 10, recommend something. Probably gay. You're known for gay things.
I'll have to recommend Gay because I've not been doing anything else lately.
Oh, so you've just been being gay. That's fair. I would
Pretty
recommend
much.
being gay too. Yeah.
Pretty much. That's my recommendation. Just Gay.
Cool. We're grooming our audience. uh, see, making jokes like that should be fun, but YouTube hates when you talk about LGBT stuff. It usually limits thingy, so maybe we will get fucked. Anyway, do you actually not have anything to recommend? It's fine if you
Yeah,
don't.
legit, I don't have anything to recommend. I haven't finished anything, and I've mostly just been replaying and rewatching stuff. So, and it's
Sergeant, you're so bad.
Who is bad?
Sergeant,
Sergeant.
blasted it wide.
Uh-huh.
That was such a good play, and he's blasted it wide somehow.
Being by discount.
Okay.
That is, yeah. I assumed the way Tin was using the word gay is just basically meaning queer, not inherently just being gay.
just mean the general liking of. I don't know how to describe. I don't know
Not
how
being
to
cis
describe
or
it.
straight.
Not straight, but general not straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Jeb, recommend something. If you say the
Um,
Mario movie, I mean, you probably will. So,
Middlesbrough scored. Whoa.
whoa,
No, I'm actually not going to recommend the Mario movie because
it's not very good.
no. Um, only because we're going to potentially do an ECUM on it. It kind of seems a bit pointless.
True.
Um, although I will say go watch that film. It's decent. I'm actually going to do an ECUM first and recommend a trailer.
Whoa.
Whoa. Because
Interesting.
it's the only other fucking thing I've consumed. Oh no, I just swore.
It's not.
Oopsie.
It's not the first. We're way past the first 7 seconds. Don't worry.
Okay, good. So yesterday,
All my
mm,
troubles seem so far away.
that also. Why a trailer? Well, I will explain why a trailer. Just hear me out. Yesterday,
Impatient.
Nintendo released the Tears of the Kingdom final trailer,
Oh yeah.
and to begin with, it was very good. But the reason why I recommend it is because it's actually a very well constructed trailer that gives you a good amount of what you could see the game might be, and gives you enough where you're still speculative. The music choice is excellent because it's Zelda music, and also there's a 30-second sax period. See, you agree with me now for recommending a trailer. So yeah, basically, I'll explain what happens in it. You kind of get the opening shot of Link skydiving, and then you get like loads of shot of story-related stuff. If I'm actually going to explore such, but the reason why it's such a good trailer is because it all flows well and it's kind of like portioned. So the first third are more about the sky stuff, peacefulness. The second third becomes more about Link and Zelda's journey, and then the third is all about um, Ganon and his attack. It's not stupid to recommend a trailer. You could recommend a very good trailer and show
There are
why other
trailers that are good content to watch. The first Deadpool film, the first trailer, the one that they leaked, quote unquote, is very good. I love to watch that one. I watched it after the film came out, even a lot.
I mean, I'd argue this Tears of the Kingdom trailer tops the 2017 presentation Breath of the Wild trailer, just because it flows so much better and it feels more um, focused. And I think if other games did trailers such as that, we'd be in good business. Like, if you told me what this game's going to be about, I couldn't tell you. I just know there's going to be Ganondorf, there's going to be Zelda, Link, what looks to be the Zonai. We're exploring what happened to them and this prophecy. That's about it. But I could tell you like all the exciting things that it looks like it's going to do with underground stuff, what puzzles we might see, the new abilities, potential dungeons, and all that jazz. Oh, even Korok seem to be back, people in the background. It's like all the details are there if you pay a lot of attention, which makes it so much rewarding if you are consuming the trailer properly, which I think trailers should do anyway. So yeah, I recommend that trailer.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Flux, that's a copy pasta that Manvike posted. He's not seen the Mario movie. So, but yeah. Oh, it's my turn. Cool. Last night I came home and my dad had ordered some pizza, right? And then I ate the pizza and he was like, "Yo, I was watching a film that I've seen like 5 times. Do you guys want to watch it? Me and my sister. Do you guys want to watch it?" I was like, "Sure." we can start. He said, we can start watching it if you guys don't want to finish it. It's fine. And then we started watch it from beginning to end, and I fucking loved it. It's a 2004 film called Closer, starring Jude Law. The film cutie. Shut up, man. It's a film called Closer, starring Jude Law, Natalie Portman, Clive Owen, and Julia Roberts. And it's a fucking really interesting film because despite being a 2004 film, which is very clear by like the visual style in terms of like color grading and editing, it feels very much like a modern film in many senses in terms of like how the dialogue is very deep and layered. It feels very that dialogue feels very Sorkin like, Aaron Sorkin, the writer. Um and and that's because the film, the writer who wrote the film, he also wrote the play which the film is based on, so that makes sense. The dialogue is very theater like, and it's very focused on dialogue, and it's just about like these four people when their lives getting a bit entangled and talking about abusive relationships and power dynamics between men and women, and just like the way women are seen as like objects that a lot of men want to possess, and the confusion between like love and possession, which I say that like that because there's a line in Blind Manor that also mentions that. Anyway, really good. I wouldn't call it a romance movie, no, but really good, very good. Kind of heavy though, so I guess try if you're gonna watch it, don't don't watch it when you're in a bad mood because that film is very cynical in a lot of ways. Um, Also, Jeb mentioned a trailer. I want to say the second trailer for the Barbie movie. It's great. Go watch it. It's super fun. If you're in a bad mood, watch that. It'll probably lighten you up. So, yeah.
I can't wait for that film to be a dystopian nightmare with the trade disguising it as a happy-go-lucky film.
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, obviously, the comedy in the film is going to come from those two being so extremely happy, living in their Barbie utopia and coming into the real world, which is going to be a disaster. I mean, they have a scene that's going to be set in Brazil, in the slums in Rio, so it's like, yeah. Anyway, the Zodiac Gamer, it is your turn. Game away.
That's me.
It is you.
Funny enough, it is actually a game I'm gonna
Ha!
suggest.
So predictable.
I've been playing a lot of the Resident Evil 4 remake, and it's like really good. It might be like the best Resident Evil game we've had since the original Resident Evil 4. It's just as a remake, it's just been done really well. But I think they knew right off the bat that they were never gonna replicate what the original did. So because the original already sort of perfected it, so they took it in a different direction, like modernized the gameplay, and it does play like an entirely different game, and that's to its benefit. So although there are things that like little mechanics here and there that can just get like really annoying to deal with, but still as a whole it's been really well designed. The story is just a major upgrade in pretty much every way. The characters have been given much more material. I mean, it's still like a Resident Evil story, so it's not great, but there's definitely much more character stuff to sort of latch onto, especially like with Louise and
Louise,
like,
played by Michael Pena.
no,
That's a shame.
and and especially just developing the relationship between Leon and Ashley, because in the original there was just nothing there, but like with the remake they've made little changes to sort of just to justify some plot stuff better, but also just help deepen things between them two a bit more. One of my favourite things is like after you have any sort of combat encounter, they'll occasionally just ask each other if they're doing it okay, and it's like little details like that that just sort of help make them a bit more endearing. And it's just like, as a Resident Evil game as a whole, it's just like just that rewarding sense of just getting to know the game more and more. Because they have extra rewards for like completing the game within certain amounts of time, and it requires you to sort of really sort of get to know, like, like try and figure out like where the best places to get the money you need are, what the best places, what's the best things to spend that money on. Sort of try and remember every enemy encounter and what the best, most efficient way of getting through them is, what items you're going to need. It's just it helps make like getting to know the game just that much more rewarding, and it's something that Resident Evil games are generally sort of good at, but a lot of the recent ones have been more sort of a slog rather than rewarding. But this one just has brought it back. Plus, it just has the great atmosphere, and visually it's just spectacular. So yeah, I can't really recommend it enough for people who like that sort of thing.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, chat. With that out of the way, we're ready to drink all the criticals.
Not fuck, I haven't joined the thing.
Yeah, only one person has. I assume it's Tin because it's the critical Tinker, which is honestly a pretty smart name, Tin. Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. User DKZGH is not as creative, but you know what? You tried. Whoever
It didn't
you are.
let me.
Waiting for Zod to join. But yeah, people,
Have joined.
I don't think any one of us have watched this video before. We just heard about it because someone tweeted about it. I think it was TC, right? I think it was TC that tweeted about it being because the name of the video is Superhero Movies Are Dying, What Comes Next? And that's kind of an interesting title because I genuinely don't think superhero films are dying or that they will ever die. Because it's not like it's a genre like a Western, right? Like, superhero movies are so varied. You can make a horror superhero movie, you can make a comedy superhero movie. They're like completely different in tone, atmosphere, sense of dramatic tension. But they're still superhero movies just by virtue of having a superhero. You wouldn't say the Batman and like Deadpool are like the same genre. That like they have action, but they're so like insanely different.
And like, I wouldn't really say it's like a genre. I think this whole thing he's referring to is like, I guess the craze that everyone was doing after the MCU became popular. How like everyone was trying to do it, like everyone was trying to hop on that trend, but like I think that craze is like gonna sort of die down a bit. But there'll still be superhero films. There's always gonna be superhero films. Like they've been around like for like 50 years by this point. Like they've even as far back as like fucking Superman the movie, like that was like a big tentpole movie even back in the 70s. Always been a thing, and it's still going to be a thing. It's just it might wind down a little bit. You might not get as many, but like they'll still be around.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where like what is dying is the Disney MCU formula. Not in the sense that it's gonna be used less, because I think Disney has already made the next few films and they can't really change all that much, like the way they make films in like this short term, but more so that it's clearly becoming something unviable for them as they lose more and more money with these films as like the past few years have gone on. With like Black Widow didn't do really well at the box office. Eternals didn't do well. Quantumania did really poorly. You still have like films that attract a bigger audience, like Multiverse of Madness, No Way Home, because of the names. Doctor Strange is a character that people do care about, and Multiverse of Madness implies a lot of cameos, and there's also like the Wanda aspect of her being the villain, which Wanda stands are that there are a lot of them. So there are a lot of aspects selling that film. People were interested because of a lot surrounding it. When it's like Quantumania, and especially when the reviews are so are so negative, saying like, "Oh, the film is shit," and there's like nothing of value from it. There's not really any point to watching it, you know.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
even
like
if it is introducing Kang, we've seen Kang in Loki, and we'll see him in Loki season 2. It's not like it's really introducing him, you know. It's not like Infinity War, where it's like, oh, this is the first time we're actually gonna see Thanos, because this isn't even the Kang that's gonna be the villain in the future. He dies by the end of the movie, so
yeah, it's just it's mostly just audience becoming more and more aware of like I guess the big faults of like what the Disney formula is about what they do and
I don't know if it's a
even
thing about awareness and more so just diminishing returns, where they've used the same formula for so long that it becomes tiring. Because you see the films that, other than Eternals, which I don't think fits into the formula at all, the films that don't fit into that formula in the MCU are the ones that usually people like a lot more, like the Guardians films. People are actually really interested in Guardians 3. Like the reception to that has been very positive. But if you see trailers for other MCU films, you're gonna see like a lot of people on Twitter, especially being like, "Oh, this is gonna be shit. Look at this trailer. It's so bad." Guardians 3, I don't think I've seen anyone negatively talking about that trailer. So I think people are just tired of like films that aren't doing much. I think it's just like the lack of sincerity in those films in a way that
yeah,
is just
I
like,
can
it becomes
understand that.
apparent once like the pretty colors and the cameos kind of wear off, because at a certain point seeing alternate universe versions of characters is going to become not that interesting, and Multiverse of Madness already made it uninteresting because they made the Illuminati so shit, right? They did the fucking fan cast of Reed Richards as what's the actor's name? John
John
Krasinski.
Krasinski.
Yeah, which was like everyone wanted that, but he was so bad that people were super like did not care. And so like, oh, is this what they're gonna do with cameos in the future? If it is, I'm not interested. So like I think Disney are kind of like shooting themselves in the foot by trying to do something that's so formulaic when he tried to actually tell a story like James Gunn does. I think it feels way more genuine.
Which is and I guess you could also say it kind of applies to DC, but like even there, like because like well Shazam 2 kind of did poorly, but like when you actually think about it, like that's a little more understandable because it's the first film also did poorly and it's like not a
And
very
it's
well known
also like
character.
the universe is being rebooted
Exactly.
and when the first film came out, it was like, oh, this is the peak of the DCU. And now with the second movie, it's like, oh, there's no DCU, right? Anymore.
At this point, it's just sort of like, what's the point? Does
Yeah.
any of this even matter? So like, especially when like the next film, Blue Beetle is supposedly part of the new DCU or something.
Yeah, I'm not
So it's
entirely sure. Well, from what
it's
I've heard, Black Adam and Shazam 2 kind of fall into that same kind of vein of like the similar to the Marvel formula.
yeah, it's like the sort of it's like the annoying thing is that in 2022 DC had two major films come out, and that being the Batman, which is this major sort of groundbreaking sort of genre-defining film. Then you have Black Adam, which is very sort of it's the most MCU sort of bleh DC film has made in a while.
Mm,
Like that's the general sort of standing on it.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like the way DC was going since they hired Joss Whedon to reshoot Justice League was that they were just kind of like, let's do like Marvel, let's just pump out films and not really care about the quality, let's just have the big names attached to them, you know, as in like the names from the comics that people like. And they thought that that would sell on its own. And obviously Marvel built a universe, and then like, and that's why people actually watch the film like Ant-Man, because they're like, oh, I like this universe, you know. If there's a film, even if the name is Ant-Man, even if it's a character that I don't really care about, it's gonna be interesting. And if you are a Marvel fan, you know that Hank Pym is a big character in the comics as well. But you know, it's because Marvel had already some goodwill built up before, whereas whereas DC really didn't, because they tried to build the universe the way they did, that really, you know, is faulty. So it's basically the point that I'm making is like, I don't think that superhero movies are dying. I think the way superhero movies are being made is clearly unsustainable. And for Disney, it took way longer to realize that. I think the pandemic was a big reason as to why they're gonna have to change their formula soon. Because they couldn't, you know, they had to throw films in on Disney Plus and in theaters at the same time, and they're grossing way less because people stopped going to the theater as much. And there's way more competition now because lower budget films are actually doing really well in the box office, and they're actually showing in theaters. Obviously not at the same amount as Disney movies do, but like way more. And you have like more. You have other companies, other big production companies producing films to compete with Marvel, whereas Marvel was kind of a monopoly for a long time in terms of especially superhero films. And now that James Gunn's DCU is going to start, I feel like that's also like going to show how much Disney can endure, well, with having like another universe with superheroes that are way better known. This is going to be way better handled than anything Kevin Feige has ever done. So that's going to be interesting.
I just want to tackle someone saying using generally on popular characters. I don't think that's a reason. And the reason for that is, firstly, the MCU started with Iron Man. You've got Guardians done by James Gunn. Ant-Man to mainstream audiences wasn't that known. Black Panther was regarded as very known in the comics, but mainstream audiences probably didn't know as much. Now it's everywhere. Peacemaker is another one, and whatever else James Gunn is going to be doing. So it seems not the A list tier or the B tier is part of the reasoning. I don't think that's a reason.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like
it's about writing.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the whole thing with the Avengers is they were only done because they didn't have rights to the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. Like the
Yeah, those are
Avengers were like
fuss.
C-list at best.
Yeah.
Like they were just for ones that they had, and they actually made them. They made them popular by making good films about them. That's generally
Yeah,
how it
it's the kind of
works.
thing where you can kind of tell how like effort went down as time went on, as Disney like acquired other properties that they were like allowed to use other characters. Or just like, let's just name drop. Let's just, like in Miss Marvel, let's imply she's a mutant or something like that. You know, like, no, we're gonna have the X-Men soon. We can bring Reed Richards into our Doctor Strange film. Like, they don't really care about telling a story anymore as long as it like sells well, like immediate term, which isn't sustainable for a universe. Because you kind of want your film, your first, you make a film, you want to advertise your next film, and what better advertisement is there than like you making a fantastic film and being like, oh, come watch our next film. If you think this is good, you're gonna like our next one. It's kind of like a snowball effect, and I think Disney stopped caring very early on. To be fair, first few Marvel films weren't Disney; they were Paramount.
They were Paramount, yeah, but
Yeah.
like that first phase, like it very much had the sort of, I guess, feel of like if we screw this up, we are not going to come back from this. Like they had all this riding on these few films, and they had to put their all into it.
Hmm.
And nowadays, that's all just kind of lost because
Yeah,
they know it'll sell.
yeah. Iron Man 1 was an insane risk that they took. It was the way what's his name, the actor Jeff Bridges, he said that Iron Man 1 was like a $200 million a student film basically when he was shooting it, which is kind of what it is, because they improvise so much and they had to come up with shit like on the spot the day of shooting. The fact that it turned out as well as it did, and they you can tell there was a lot of effort put into it for it to look good, for it to tell a story, but like they risked so much by putting that much money into a film that they were not sure would make its money back. So I guess the point would be as well, like the lack of like wanting to take risks. Like, oh, you want to tell a grounded story to round off the Ant-Man trilogy? No, include Kang. Let's talk about Kang. Let's build the universe, because that's way more important, because that sells tickets more than telling a grounded story. Which like that's actually like factual what happened with Quantumania, because Paul Rudd wanted to make the film uh about like a
He wanted to
grounded
make
story with
Loki.
MODOK as the villain, and talking about like Cassie and Scott as characters. I'll be on Earth. But Peyton Reed was like, no, I want to tell a big story, and so they included Kang so that it could be like a big part of the universe. And that's why the writers from the previous two films didn't work on Quantumania at all, including Paul Rudd, who did the screenplay for both of the Ant-Man films. He didn't do for Quantumania. It was only Jeff Loveness. So
I want to tackle another two things.
Mhm.
One, Ant-Man didn't bomb. It didn't do as well, but it didn't bomb. Ant-Man doesn't do that well in the box office. I assume they probably expected 600 million plus, but it's still at least broke even.
Oh, you're
Guardian,
talking about Quantumania, right?
yeah.
Yeah, because you say Ant-Man, for me that's the first film.
Um, yeah, Quantumania, Shazam bombed, like very badly bombed. It had a budget of 250 million. We'll need, how have you worked that out?
I assume an article probably said Variety. confirm
Because
this while the shows money.
firstly, it did 200 million budget, not a budget of 250. So if we go by Variety, if they're saying it's 250, that's already incorrect. But whatever. For Guardians 3, the open projections 130. That's 15 million off the second film's box office opening total. Without that having predictions, I don't know what they were at the time, but it's 15 million off. I suspect Guardians might break the predictions. I think they're going lower because of what you mentioned, which is superhero films are not making that much at the moment.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go by Guardians 3 projections being impacted by the bad superhero content. We don't know yet.
Yeah,
The
and
numbers are
also something that's
unknown.
interesting, and that is very much because the pandemic like changed a lot how movies are consumed in theaters and how much money they make. But like in 2019, we had Endgame, which is the highest grossing movie ever, and we had Joker, which was an R-rated comic book film that broke 1 million. It's like the highest grossing R-rated film ever. You know, and around that time, like year before, we had Infinity War. I'm pretty sure, did Captain Marvel break 1 billion? I know it did really well. I don't know if it broke 1 billion.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. It's like, obviously, because Captain Marvel was going off the hype of Infinity War, which also did insanely well. It's because Disney was, like, building up to it, right? And I think people kind of assume that, like, the standard, like, breaking 1 billion is just normal for superhero films because of that era of, like, Civil Wars, like 2016 to 2019, where everything was doing like very well. To a point where you see like Snyder fans being like, "Oh, the Batman didn't even break 1 billion; it flopped," and you're like, "No, it did well."
it made its money back and well enough more. So like that's pretty much for average sort of expectation.
Yeah, how much did we get? I think it was like 750 million, right, something like that.
It was around that. It was around that, and the budget was. Was it around 250 million?
I can check. Hold on. The Batman budget. It was from 185 to 200 million. So yeah, around 200 million. Yeah. Which is like that's what you expect. But I think people have this weird expectation that films have to break 1 billion now to be considered like not flops, you know? Which I find it so interesting because like unless it's like a No Way Home type of film, you know, a big event type film, I find it very hard that it will. Or like, you know, Top Gun Maverick, which was an anomaly, and Avatar 2 was expected to do as well as it did. But you know, when it's like these superhero films, I don't really usually expect these types of films to make that much money, which is why I find it weird when Disney pours so much money into something like Quantumania when it's like I don't think people are that interested in it.
Batman did not earn about 200 million, it was 177. And to tackle something else, if you get a string of bad superhero movies, doesn't matter. Generally, you'd be surprised. It's about what interests the general audience. Guardians is something that does. Ant-Man isn't, categorically. Shazam isn't, categorically. Because when I looked into them, they have relatively low box office compared to other IPs. Even Thor, the highest it got was 700 something million. The rest were lower than that.
Well, it's the kind of thing where, like, in the beginning, I think people compare it to, like, when inflation was way lower, 700 million was, like, worth way more, like, 12 years ago than it is now. And in terms of, like, spending for making these films, Disney spends way more than they used to, you know, back in, like, Phase 1, 2. You know, Phase 1 was Paramount. When I say Disney, I mean, like, MCU. You get what I mean.
Yeah, I think everyone has this perception of bad in relative to them. General audiences, they're not gonna probably find it as bad as others. A lot really enjoyed Ant-Man 3. Let me look at his audience score though. Rotten Tomatoes isn't reliable, but
I just want to read this comment. I'm just bored of superhero stuff. I'm enjoying rewatching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. though. I'm nearly done with season 5 now, and based because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But like the point that I'm making is that I think if like some I say someone does something new, like are you interested in the new DCU? Ginger, Philip. like the one that James Gunn is gonna be the head of. Because my point is more like the the way that superhero films are dying is that they stick to this formula of always being like the same, of always having like these pointless action scenes that come out of nowhere and like filled with cameos and not really having a story and not really having any character. And that's like what's tiring about these films. It's just the lack of like originality and sincerity and just feeling like they're made out of like factories, you know. I'll give it a go, but I'm not excited. Right. It's just because like I feel like if they try to do a new interesting take on a superhero property that I already like, I would be very interested in that. But in terms of the MCU, I'm just so disinterested with anything that comes out unless it's, you know, Guardians. So I think that would be the same for like general audiences because it's the kind of thing where like, oh, people say that Joker is a character that's so overdone, he's been in every Batman property, but then that film grossed over 1 billion, you know. That film did really well and people really love it and they're making a sequel and people, as far as I know, were excited for that. And the same for the Batman, which is like a different film than you're expecting from like the current DCEU with like the tone that's way more in line with MCU, you know, that kind of shit like Shazam that's very lighthearted, self-aware jokes, Joss Whedon type of humor. I don't like seeing Joss Whedon type of humor because his humor is better than, you know, what came from him. But anyway, and in that film was very well received. I think the same with like Into the Spider-Verse, which didn't do very well in the box office, but it was also well received, and the sequel is being very hyped. So. Is there anything interesting besides Guardians 3 coming from Marvel? I can think of non-Marvel films I'm excited for. I don't really think I'm interested in anything that's coming from Marvel other than Guardians.
Secret Invasion has the only slight bit of promise that it has in Mr. Robot Writer, and the trailer was interesting. That's it.
Yeah, they hire good writers. To be fair, the Echo show has good writers. Better Call Saul and Daredevil writers are writing that one. So.
True. The Marvel's trailer wasn't horror, but I don't think that'd be any good, truthfully.
Yeah. It could be interesting if they have 3 characters like bouncing off each other and being good, but I doubt it. Oh,
Like,
Coulson and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would return to the MCU. Would need to be well written,
No.
though. I don't want them.
no.
I think it would cheapen a lot of what they went through in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think this is the same with like Legion or something like that. Like if you bring David into the MCU, it's just gonna cheapen it a lot. Yeah. Do you know who's writing the new Daredevil show? Yeah, CW writer.
We're not kidding.
Yeah.
One of them is a CW writer. For
Yeah.
The Flash.
Yeah.
I want to die. Oh, 2-0 Middlesbrough. Or is that offside? It's offside.
Yeah. All right. I think we're ready to start with the video now. I think we talked a lot. I think we established our premise. It is an interesting topic, to be fair, because I don't think there's like a correct answer because it's a lot about hypotheticals, about how can you save the superhero genre, and like the idea that at least I don't think it is a genre. You know, I think it is. It's more like just the name you put into films that have superheroes in them. They're usually like comic book stories, but aren't inherently like following the same genre and type of story and everything. So yeah, how to save the genre, make good movies law. Not every good movie makes money well, but yeah. Anyway, let me do the thing. Video.
You know what I'm pleased about with all this though, like the firing of Alonso and just this. There's no hiding it now. There's no hiding the fact that like the MCU isn't in deep trouble.
Okay. First off, I didn't know we were gonna get cameos from Nerdrotic and
Oh,
Mahler.
now it's 2-0.
I guess we'll counterbalance the other. But I don't think Victoria Alonso being fired represents that like there's something wrong with Marvel, and more so that there was something wrong with what she was doing, right? Because there's been a lot of shit that they've talked about in terms of VFX artists being exploited, and she was the head of the VFX department, right? So it just makes sense. Like they're using her as a scapegoat because I'm sure the problems weren't just with her. It was with like the Disney the people who work at Disney as a whole, you know.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on, Jim.
yeah, it's like I wouldn't even if we were to go, okay, there's some trouble because you're firing someone in the visual effects. Um, I think you can't say it's in deep trouble until Feige goes. That's
Yeah.
when I'm like, it's in deep trouble. Because
Well, it's the same
at
with
the end,
with DC. Until they hire James Gunn, you're. I mean, we knew it was in deep trouble, but like until they hired James Gunn, they were still like fighting to be like, no, you see, we can still build this universe. And then James Gunn did his. That James Gunn needs to rebuild the universe. It's basically an admission of defeat. Like firing the head of the VFX department doesn't really indicate that. It just means there was something wrong with that part of it. You know.
I mean, the most they are omitting is that the scheduling for the effects have been pretty poor, but I don't think that's down to her. I think project management's across many other departments
Well,
as well.
it seems clear to me that they want to use her as a scapegoat from like public perspective, just so that people can be like, "See, we took out the bad apple. The rest is fine." You know, our VFX artists aren't going to be exploited, and it's like that doesn't really prove it to me.
They
Because you
they
you
got
were telling her how to handle that. I'm sure. You know, if you
they
actually wanted to change it, you do more than just fire her.
who else was it that they got rid of? I don't know if it was at the time of this video, but they got rid of someone else. Someone like prominent that's been there, I think, from the beginning.
I don't know. I haven't been on Twitter
What's
for a
this?
while. Was that recent or
Ah,
was
no,
it?
that's Victoria Alonso. There's someone else. Um, EK Paramuter. Also got fired. He was what was his role? He got fired this year. Bob Iger probably did it because he's obviously joined.
Yeah.
Um, position. What was his position?
I
He
don't
was
know.
overseeing the development of Marvel Studios in 2015. Um, uh,
Person in chat said he used to own Marvel Entertainment.
yeah, he seemed to have been running it. But this was part of a restructuring apparently to fold the division's operations into Disney proper. So a bit like how Jeff Loeb oversaw Marvel Television, that kind of was a bit aloof with Perlmutter at the time. It seems it's all going under Disney and removing middle management
Yeah. Which makes
by the
sense to
looks of
make
it.
it more interconnected, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say I knew someone else got like fired.
Anyway. By the way, I have no idea who this Tom Connors person is, chat, if you know if he's a normal
I
person or
think
he's
he's
like a
part
nerdrotic
of.
type.
I think he's part of Midnight's Edge. I think that's like another fandom menace type lot.
Oh, okay.
Um, let me have a look.
He was fired essentially because he
He,
fought against Iger during the board meeting,
oh
according to this
boy,
person in
this
chat, but I'm not.
what the fuck is this name? Mead the 4K Master Tom Connors. You are right, it's Midnight Edge. Individual. Looks like a fucking moron.
Jeez.
Because up
Yeah.
until fairly recently, there was just this blanket denial. You know, it's like, no, it's fine. The movies are still making so much money. People love it. You can't.
Yeah, and they're still saying that, to be fair.
Bro, what the
That's just how
fuck?
companies work. They're not going to say that they're doing poorly.
Sky, we were like speaking for 3 minutes and I was looking at the screen. I've looked up, it's now 3-1.
Oh,
It
Jesus
was
Christ,
two
3-1?
it was like 2-0 about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, goddamn.
Norwich just scored. What? Okay.
I wish that game was
Football,
on
I love it.
TV. Yeah, I wish I could be watching it. Anyway.
You can't criticize it. That's ridiculous. Now there's just an open admission. If even the trades are talking about the problems with the MCU, you know it's bad. And they know it's bad. They know that they're in trouble and they can't hide it anymore.
When Bob Iger comes out
Oh,
and
wait, he
says we're
might
going to
say it.
prioritize quality over
Yeah,
quantity,
right.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much your indictment, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Not
about to bring up.
really. I think that's just because the previous Disney CEO was just like trying to pump out content as fast as possible, and that was fucking over their return because they're just like how many fucking films are there? It's like 5 MCU films and like 4 TV shows in 1 year. It was like an insane thing that happened like the past 2 years. And so VFX artists didn't have as much time to work on it. Writers didn't have as much time to work on the films, directors, everything. And it was being unviable. I think Kevin Feige complained about it, being like we just don't have enough time to work on all these things, and it's why some of them like kind of felt like they were left to the wayside.
I do have a theory on why that was done. And I think everyone probably agrees that the losses of the pandemic, they're like, shit, we gotta bring all this back. So they're like, flood release all the content,
Mhm.
make up for the pandemic losses and what we didn't release. And ultimately, Disney weren't seeing progress, which is why Iger came in
Yeah, so Iger came
back
back.
again.
Yeah.
Which
And hey, we were the canary in the coal mine for fucking like 5 years. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say we didn't warn you.
Wasn't the script Black Widow written like 6 weeks? I think so. It was written in a very short amount of time.
yeah,
But to be fair, James Gunn also wrote the scripts for Peacemaker in like a few weeks as well. It was like when he was sick, during like production of the Suicide Squad, he just wrote it. It wasn't even supposed to be a show originally. He just wrote it because he wanted to pass the time. I don't like Chopback, but it gets a lot of the blame. Iger should get some too. I mean, they're both shit. It's just like Chopback is the one pumping out content, like incessantly.
I'm curious why you think why Iger should in the most recent trend of stuff, because Iger's only just started to do his actions now.
Well,
So I don't know
I
if you're
think he means
updating that.
before from Iger's previous stay as the president.
Bob, when did he leave? Iger.
I'm not sure. I think
I'm
it's
not gonna pretend like
17. I'm not sure.
2020 he left.
2020.
So that was WandaVision out at that point?
No, WandaVision came out in 2021. There was no Marvel shit. It was the first
So
month of 2020.
so that means Phase 4 has been entirely under Chapek,
Yeah.
and Phase 5 and Phase 6 will have his influence in some form. I
Mm.
doubt they're gonna massively change it.
Yeah. A lot of
Um,
movies
a
and
lot-
TV shows have pre-production, etc. It takes time, which means Iger was still CEO and the stuff was happening when they were filming. I think the only film that was like ready by that point was Black Widow. They just
Let's
kept
have a-
delaying it and reshooting it in
have a look.
2020.
I think Black Widow would be the one. Filming.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that'll be
filming.
the only one.
A rap party happened on September the 30th, 2019, when it's
Oh.
post-production.
Was No Way Home already being filmed in like before 2020? Because
don't
like
know.
wasn't a lot of it like hard to shoot because they shot during the pandemic? He left in 2020. When in 2020, I guess if it was like late 2020, I guess it would fit. No Way Home
Just
came
trying
out
to
in 2021. I imagine you mean Far From Home, but like Far From Home doesn't really apply to what we're saying. Because in 2019 it was Captain Marvel, Endgame, and Far From Home, and then 2020 we didn't have anything.
So WandaVision is at the very end of his tenure for filming.
Mhm.
Literally finished February 2020. No Way Home filming can't have been.
No, yeah, he got confused with Far From Home.
Yeah, Far From Home would be under him. Obviously, Endgame. But it's worth noting that despite Far From Home releasing, you could tell there's a bigger disparity in the quality. At least Far From Home tried. You know, it doesn't feel like that Multiverse of Madness is trying to even tell a story with characters or anything. It just Black Panther 2, it just feels like a lot of blobs going on with no cohesion.
Yeah, No Way Home feels like a pandemic film that shot like actors in their homes in front of green screens, and it doesn't feel like they they actually shot the film at a studio or something. It's hard to describe because it's more of a feeling that I get from that film.
Well, it's 4-1 now.
Eternals apparently was originally supposed to come out in November 2020 and it got delayed. and reshoots got done in late 2020 during the delay.
Let's see when it finished filming though. That's the key thing. But yeah, it's 4-1 now to Middlesbrough.
Good for them. I agree with that. I don't know why anyone
Yeah.
would invest so much in the streaming services when they make no money. It's because it was the only viable way because everyone was making streaming services. But now they're realizing that they can't do streaming services and they're gonna die in a couple years.
So the three projects, by the looks of it, is Eternals, WandaVision, Black Widow, and all three were heavily hindered by obviously pandemic.
Hmm.
So I could obviously take some blame, but I think the majority on this is Japan.
Yeah, of the making like 600 movies and TV shows per year, I think it's on Chapek rather than Niger.
But yeah, streaming services work if they're not saturated. Right now, we're far too saturated already
Mhm.
because everyone's jumping on it. Truthfully, Disney should still exist as a streaming service. That can produce enough income for other areas. Netflix, it depends what choices it makes, but it can survive. And I think Amazon would be able to survive because it's Amazon.
Yeah.
The
HBO
others, I
Max
don't
clearly
see.
can't because they were already last year we
Yeah.
saw how badly they were doing.
Yeah, I don't get how HBO Max is going to survive. Peacock of all things is going to survive. There's probably others.
Yeah, the
Discover-
streaming what's the name?
what one?
Model. That's the word. The streaming model is so it isn't sustainable in its current form. It can't just like make a $200 million show or film and put it on a streaming service and expect people to actually like subscribe more to your streaming service and you make a lot more money. It's just not sustainable. That's way too much money that you're spending on something just like for a streaming service that you don't pay that much for. Because it's like if you make a film and you go to theaters, the tickets are like whatever $10, but you get way more people going and paying to watch it. Usually with streaming services, you have like you're using your friend's streaming service, or like not only do you pay way less for it, the money needs to be split between everything that people watch. What's the name of the money that people who worked on a show get every time you watch it? It's not royalties.
I think it is called royalties.
No, it's not royalties. It's another name. I forgot it. It's a term I've seen a lot of people talk about in terms of actors. But yeah.
But I think what they imagined was going to happen is streaming services popularize, cable TV dies out. So these channels that air are like, oh God, I don't know how we're going to survive. We're going to sell off our stuff to use streaming services. They eat them up, and then that becomes the new cable TV, quote unquote. Ultimately, was never going to happen. Mainly because streaming inherently relies on a network, and we're not at an accessible point with the network. And there's also the costs involved in maintaining a streaming network. There's also prices for owning IPs on there that isn't your also third-party ones.
Yeah.
It's all these elements. You mentioned HBO.
Oh
will
yeah,
be
it's
fine.
sorry. It's just like I remember when Friends was still on Netflix and they were like spending insane amount of money to keep it on Netflix just because so many people only had Netflix to watch it and they were like we don't want to lose this. It was like so much money that they had to pay to keep it there. It's just not sustainable. It's just like it's one show.
And then you got the issues of trying to distribute it globally. HBO still isn't able to get it to the UK. HBO will not be fine in 5 years either.
Yeah.
It's too niche. It needs to team up with another company and expand itself. Peacock won't survive in 5 years. I suspect Peacock and HBO probably merge. Peacock's only got rid of The Office and Friends, but the Friends is available in the UK and such because Peacock can't distribute outside of US for some reason. So yeah, streaming services are a fad. Netflix isn't going to last much longer either. They're
if it
tanking.
keeps the way it is, yeah.
Yeah, they
The ideas of adding ads, not letting you like share passwords, not let but increasing prices every so often. It's like, dude, this is not sustainable. People aren't gonna keep, especially when they like don't let you share passwords. It's so stupid the way they did it.
And because of competition taking up products and moving it from their service, they look less attractable as well.
Oh yeah, that is also
Yeah.
true. A good point that it was made in chat. The fucking post, the way the Netflix does it, of just letting an entire season, just posting an entire season on the same day. That's like a very very bad um business model, because it's
Sure.
like, because if you do it once a week, you keep viewers coming back. Like The Last of Us was like, no, 9-10 episodes. You have viewers for like 2 months coming back to your streaming service to watch The Last of Us, and it keeps the conversation alive, which keeps you more interested in watching it, which is why it shows like Succession, Ted Lasso, that kind of thing. You have more conversation around them. You have more people coming back to your streaming service to watch it.
Jeb got that RTD prophecy. I've said it all along. RTD said the same. Streaming services, overpriced, recycled content that are there to seem like a bargain.
Mm-hmm. And once a week without the hype, and the way you don't need to overspend on constantly making content and spending more money. Yeah, it's like it's like you make an entire TV show, you spend millions of dollars like The Witcher. You post it all on the same day. You're like, well, we're gonna binge it and then it's done. I need to make more content so more people watch it. It's like, no, if you have a show like The Witcher, a lot of people are gonna be interested in that. Once a week, post it. People are gonna be way more interested and gonna want to come back. If it's like 13 episodes, like 3 months, you have people coming back to your streaming service if people like the show. It's silly.
Uh,
It was a
and
good
what you're
it worked for a while, the way they did with it, like posting everything at once, because people liked the binge model, but it got old very fast because of the market got so saturated that so many people were making so many shows that you're like, I'd rather watch one episode this week, one episode next week, because it gives me more time to watch other things. I don't want to just spend an entire day like binging this show and then binging another. People like spacing out things, especially because the discourse surrounding TV shows is way more alive if you know release an episode a week. Because
Yeah.
you don't have the thing of like, oh, I already watched the entire show. Oh, I only watched 3 episodes. That kind of thing. Because people are like, oh, I'm gonna talk about the last episode, but I'm gonna spoil it. Oh, I haven't watched it all yet. I haven't had time. It's much better if people have the time to watch it on once a week. It's way less of a commitment.
Yeah,
And,
well, uh,
I'll let you go, Zod.
I was going to say, just look at the recent episodes of Succession. Just like one of the biggest the show's had, and like if you're like in on the conversations around the show, then it's been huge.
Mm.
Just the community all just sort of getting together just to talk about what happened, and it's just like, imagine if like Breaking Bad as well did a similar thing of just bringing out the whole season all in a week.
Mm.
Like, because then you like with the final season even, like you could just binge through like stuff like Ozymandias and then just move straight to the next episode, and it's like you'd get these like major sort of episodes that change the entire status quo of the show, and it's like you wouldn't get much time to actually
Digest
stop
it,
to
I guess.
appreciate just sort of what it's done, because you've already moved straight on to the consequences of it instead of taking that week to just sort of think about it and think what could happen. So no, you can already know. So just it makes TV shows just a bit less of an event.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing of like, if you can finish Ozymandias and straight away watch the next episode, you're not thinking, "Oh, I wonder where this will go." You're like, "I'm gonna watch where this will go." Obviously, people watching the show nowadays are probably binging it, but I get the point you're making. It's like, if you have something that could change the show so drastically, it's so much better for you to like ponder on it for like a week rather than just moving on to the next one. I feel like it's gonna help your engagement a lot with the show.
The funny thing is that I actually kind of had both the experiences when I watched Better Call Saul, because I was binging Better Call Saul like right when the final season was coming out, and I managed to catch up right before the final episode came out. So I had like a few days of like pondering what the final episode was gonna be. So I kind of like got like a taste of both the binging model and the regular Saul model. Like, and I kind of like the sort of taking the week to do that. It's why I enjoyed like watching House of the Dragon so much. It's because like I had like a week in between to theorize on it, and it just adds a whole lot more sort of fan interactivity, especially when discussing stuff like this, as opposed to dumping it all in one day.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
after
I
I
think-
finished watching the episodes of season 6 of Better Call Saul, at the end of the episode, I opened Twitter. I'm like, oh, let's see what people are saying about this episode. This was like it's very interesting to hear what people think, where they think the story will go. I talked to Graham Paulson a lot during um, Better Call Saul season 6 and Euphoria season 2. Like I finished watching the episode, like let's talk about it. It's fun. It's a good model to keep you invested.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's also like quite important to a show's longevity, I feel.
Oh
'cause,
yeah.
if you bring out like just all of it in the same day, then it is just going to reduce the cultural impact it has.
Well,
Like,
I think as
breaking-
well, you building on your point is like if you make a TV show and you like release the entire season in one day, and like you make the next season like 2-3 years later, which oftentimes happens, you're kind of like, oh, that's it, and then you're like forget the show completely once season 2 comes out. If it's weekly, not only is your investment bigger, but you have more time watching the show. You kind of instead of spending a day watching it, you spend months watching it. It's on your mind for longer, so it stays on your mind for longer. It's much easier for you to be invested when season 2 comes out because you're like, oh man, I really like season 1. I remember everything. Because with Netflix shows, I used to like have to rewatch the previous season when the new one came out, like the day before it came out, because it was like I don't remember anything that happened despite liking the show.
Yeah, well, just again with Breaking Bad, I don't think that show would be as huge as it is today if it had the sort of the binging sort of model, because a whole big thing about it was just having that week in between episodes just to have all the audiences just react to things that are happening. And if you had it all in 1 week, then there wouldn't be time for any of it to leave any sort of actual impact. It just moves straight on and then it just becomes right. Well, now we've just got to wait for the next season. It's damaging. It really is.
Imagine if Game of Thrones at its peak was dropping all episodes at once. Yeah.
Oh, God, like,
Well, it's the kind of thing where like it makes specific episodes so much less memorable. I feel because you're watching them all at once, so you kind of because like for me, I kind of feel like a season of a Netflix show kind of feels like an episode. Whereas if I'm watching a TV show that comes out weekly, I'm like, oh, I remember this episode. I remember specific Flash episodes more than I remember specific Daredevil episode. Just because I'm like, oh yeah, 806, that was the Goldface episode. Or 903, you had Goldface as Hartley. I don't know, I think it's just because it releases weekly. Like, oh, we're waiting and we want to watch it like the day it comes out. It kind of feels like you're building anticipation. You want to see what we're in for this week instead of just like consuming it all at once. Not to say that Flash is good. Daredevil is good. Flash isn't, but that was the point I wanted to make. Even though Daredevil is better, I don't think I remember specific episodes other than Karen in season 3. So yeah, especially bad for hour-long shows. Oh yeah, because you're like, I already watched an hour. There's like 8 more hours of this show. Jesus Christ! If you're gonna watch just 1 hour every week, it's way less of a commitment. Which is part of it, the commitment bit. Which is why weekly is better. Anyway, that was a huge tangent.
Yeah.
Hanging out in coal mines.
Oh, you guys are going to notice over the next...
Schadenfreude is a fantastic word, and
It
it's like
is.
I'm experiencing a lot of it right now.
I was going to say, you guys are going to notice over the next 2-3 years here, there's going to be a lot of folks on the other side who are going to be like, we need to quit this woke stuff. We need to quit this. It's just separating. They're going to...
Oh my god. I don't know who said in chat that someone was going to say the word woke. It didn't come from any of the people I know, but like, that came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, What? We're talking about like superhero films doing poorly. It's just like, oh, the woke stuff. It was you, Naira. That makes sense. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, people in a few years are gonna be like, oh, we need to quit the woke stuff. You know, and it's not like woke has been a thing that people have been fucking saying since like 2016. It's been 7 years, man. What the fuck do you? Whatever. So most of my favorite shows are woke in that sense, the sense these people think. Like Doctor Who is whatever.
I say all that we've been saying for the last 5 years.
Oh,
And they're
yeah.
going to act like they
7 years.
invented it.
What? What?
Right.
Oh my god.
Let's see.
People who are currently woke are gonna be like, oh, we need to stop the woke stuff. We invented the concept of being anti-woke. Mate, oh my god, it's so... Wow. Jeb, I can't wait for in a few years for you to claim that you invented the word woke.
Ah, those goddamn snowflakes. Back in my day, there was only the gender spectrum, and now there's the animal spectrum.
Oh, the
Can't take
animal
this anymore.
spectrum, yes. Oh my god, man.
Can't take this anymore. It's gone too far. They're grooming our kids.
Yeah, have you ever seen Lamb, the film where the couple has a kid and it's a lamb human hybrid? They're grooming our kids, saying they can be lambs. So obviously, the gay agenda, the woke agenda.
It's even worse than that. They're saying they can fuck lambs.
Yes.
They're telling children to have sex with lambs.
The stream isn't gonna be monetized. I was hoping it would, but I feel like that one little joke might have ruined everything.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Bill
there's
Maher's
gonna
been
be-
doing that for a year now. So
Well, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people, like actors and stuff, when it's safe to do so, will be like, oh, I was never really in favor of this stuff. I was always uncomfortable with it, but, you know, I felt like I had to go along with it.
I was very uncomfortable when I saw
Like,
people that are different than me on TV, and I was against it, but I was going along with it because I didn't want to be called racist. Yeah, there's a reason why, Drinker.
Generally, what's that to be uncomfortable with? Like, how can this make you uncomfortable? Like, just
I don't know what the
being a bit
uncomfortable part would be. It's because they use the word woke, and we've talked about this before, but it's very hard to define that word. Drinker really wasn't able to do it properly. And, I don't know, I kind of feel like they just used that word as a substitute for, like, saying what they actually mean. Like, oh, we don't want, gay people. We don't want trans people. We don't want black people in our TV.
I didn't support gay people.
Yeah.
It made me uncomfortable. I'm not like them. I'm super straight.
Super straight. That word is so funny.
It's like, fuck off. Like, you absolutely chose your side when it was popular.
Gary, do you think he's not a grifter? Whatever, man.
well, it was just yesterday, wasn't it? Anna, what's her name, Kasperian or whatever the hell her name is from the Young Turks.
Oh yeah.
She was going out there. Did you see that, Gary?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, wasn't there a person from the Young Turks was being like transphobic? I think that's what he's referencing. Which is a shame because the Young Turks is a leftist channel, which from what I've heard makes decent videos. But yeah.
She got raked over the coals because she was starting to talk about women's rights. I can't.
Yeah, women's rights. Yeah, it's exactly. She was she came out as a TERF. I think that was it. I think I remember being on Twitter and seeing that.
Those damn trans people invading women's spaces, wanted to use bathrooms.
How dare friends with wanting to pee? Oh no.
Ignore the fact that there's really virtually no situations of molestation. They're all gonna do it.
Trans women are way more likely to be sexually assaulted in the bathroom than to sexually assault. Whatever.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. The conservatives
False
disagree
record.
with the facts. So,
we ignore the crime rates.
The crime rates are woke, therefore they're inaccurate.
I mean,
They're
yeah,
lefty lawyers.
that's the kind of thing that was it the alternative facts? That's what they called when Trump was elected, right? Let's listen to alternative facts. Okay, amazing.
That quote, but yeah, I don't want to get into it anyway for the politics of it all, but like, yeah, it's getting there. We're getting to that point where a lot of these folks, I even saw an interview with Sean Penn where he was talking about like he didn't quite understand a lot of this pronoun bullshit and all this other stuff.
pronoun bullshit. Okay, I'm gonna search this. Sean Penn
Let's help
pronouns.
you, Tom. Pronouns.
Bill Maher. Sorry, the first, fuck. Okay, the first result when I googled that was a YouTube video called "Bill Maher and Sean Penn rip woke pronouns." Riff on which of the three Stooges Sean was going to play. Blah, 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 blah. Shares outdated. Wait, was that in 2022? I think it was. Yeah, and there were a lot of people who disagree with it. Okay, so. Okay. He also Sean Penn also apparently called out woke colleges. Men are becoming quite feminine and have cowardly genes, according to Sean Penn. Sean Penn's initial comments came while speaking to a newspaper earlier this month, saying, "I'm in the club that believes that men in American culture have become wildly feminized." He continued, "I don't think that being a brute or having insensitivity or disrespect for women is anything to do with masculinity or ever did. Not inherently, but yeah. But I don't think that in order to be fair to women, we should become... I don't think that in order to be fair to women, we should become them." Okay. In an interview with
Well, it's
The
5-1.
Independent, Sean Penn doubled down on his outdated ideas of gender norms. "I think that men have, in my view, become quite feminized. I have very strong women in my life who do not take masculinity as a sign of oppression towards them. There are a lot, I think, cowardly genes that lead to people surrendering their genes and putting on a skirt." Oh my god. How dare men wear skirts?
Does he think we've been putting HRT and estrogen in the water supply?
Oh, yes. She's called J.K. Rowling
I
because
wish.
she's a joker. Oh, okay. The two-time Oscar winner said the comments while on an interview with his daughter, Dylan Penn. The Independent noted she sat there quiet, staring into space while her father spoke of gender. Can relate. Okay, that wasn't the one I wanted to see because apparently there's this video came out in February 2023, but I don't want to watch another video go on a huge tangent, so hold on, let me check. Jonathan Van Ness slams Sean Penn for ignorant masculinity comments. So this is just a masculinity shit. Hold on. Oh, there we go. I found the transcript of that video. The water made the frogs gay. Yes, I miss Alex Jones. I don't really. Fuck that guy.
I miss him. He inspired me.
Yes. Inspired me to become less retarded. How many times do I have to verify I'm human?
50.
It's been twice already.
See, trans people are not humans. That's why.
Yeah, that's what this website is telling me. Okay. Fuck. Champagne. Bill Mayer. Because I want to see how. Champagne. Here we go. Champagne rips colleges for going woke. Alright. As we all know, wokeness is a cancer that seems to be affecting a lot of institutions in America, and higher education is amongst the worst impacted. So, yeah, this is a very unbiased site. Reality is almost suspended upon walking on a college campus. People will attempt to cancel you for for any mildly edgy joke, or if you believe in biology and sex, you would immediately be deemed public enemy number one. This isn't him saying anything. This is just the article. Well, Penn has had enough, and explained how he was protested during a college speech while also being applauded for his hit film Milk. In that moment, it occurred to him he could never play the role of a gay man in 2023 due to the outrage mob. Now probably he wouldn't be able to play the role of a gay man because people know that he is, not pro LGBT. Anyway.
I want to take it a step back to the fact they went cancelling you over biology. What?
Oh, that just means that they think that trans women are men. They don't think trans women are their identified gender.
Because biology said so.
Yeah,
You failed
they love
biology,
appealing to
it's
biology,
fine.
even though it makes no sense as an argument. We're used to that. Anyway, here's a quote from Champagne. "I was realizing the contradiction in what was happening outside with the protesters and a few inside, and when I came out, I think the first thing I said, which I think was a fair observation, read that film today, I couldn't play that part. And the same people who 2 minutes before were applauding Milk were thinking, fuck him, about Me Too suddenly were hardwired into acceptance. This just seems so weird. He probably like said some stupid shit and people were mad at him. But Milk is a film about a gay man, as far as I know. I haven't seen it. And he played a gay man, so it's like, whatever. Then the duo also touch on how students are so soft, they'll try to get professors fired if the course material is too tough. When has that ever happened? Outside of the conversation going a bit off the rails in the second half when they were discussing socialism. Jesus Christ. Penn and Mayer are both correct. Political correctness, wokeness, and the snowflake attitude have all gone way too far. College is supposed to be about growing as a person, earning an education, and being challenged. Of all the places that shouldn't be safe spaces, colleges are right at the top of the list. Yes, I should be called a slur every time I go to college. I agree, man. Let's go. So stupid.
I should fear for my life in college. I shouldn't enjoy being educated. What?
Yeah.
Fucking
This doesn't have all of the
To put it this way, as someone who's attended university, if a course is seen as too challenging with its coursework or exam, it's reflected across the entire module, people that take it. And what they do is they go, oh, it's below the standard, so we inflate the marks. I got 77% on the exam, everyone else got like 20, 30%. Everyone got their marks up by 20%, so I ended up with 97.
Yeah, to throw off the grading curve, basically.
Yeah.
I found the transcript for this podcast episode. And here they talk about pronouns. Hold on. Okay, well, sorry. I don't know where to stop. Oh my god, they're mentioning Dave Chappelle. Okay. I feel like... Oh my god, they said the word social justice warrior. Jesus Christ, okay, hold on. Don't know her well.
Socialism's just communism.
Instead, what the fuck is happening? It's a parody of 12 Angry Men and it's all, and the cast is like amazing. I'm surprised you're not at it. Like, all these like named people or angry, or the angry man, and they're deciding whether she's hot enough to be on TV. And instead of a knife on the table, remember having funded it with a knife, it's a dildo. It's the best sort of parody thing I've ever seen on TV. So apparently it's a parody of 12 Angry Men. So the conversation starts because they're talking about a parody of 12 Angry Men, discussing whether or not a woman is hot enough to be on TV. And there's a dildo on the table instead of a knife. Which doesn't really make any sense at all, parodying 12 Angry Men, but okay. I've seen her wife. She had me complete these. These are cool. I've seen thinking about. Yeah, since if there's like if you got a group of soldiers, culture soldiers. What the fuck is a culture soldier? Together with 10, she'd be in them. She's got something. She got something special. And you think we need culture soldiers? Well, an interesting phrase. I think we do. I feel like when I hear it, it sounds to me like social justice warrior. And you know what it is? It's what my version of it. It's Bill Maher, who says things I agree with, those things I don't agree with, but where I feel I'm getting that I'm being recognized as authentic because this person accepts themselves as authentic. Yeah, look at the comedy, like, for you throughout the COVID period. It was a sanity keeper to the degree I could keep sanity. It was you, it was Dave Chappelle, it was a handful of others too. Bill Burr, where you sat there, you say, I'm not even in a world where I have to agree or disagree, I just have to see authenticity. Well, the three of us that you mentioned there were all people who call out the woke a lot. So I feel like that is a little bit of contradiction in you. I feel like you instinctively want to go toward that direction because you have that tingling feeling in your balls for any sort of thing that's
toward
like
that direction because
oh my god, it's playing. Okay. It's like says there's social justice, but at some point that movement veered into authoritarianism. Okay. Jesus Christ, they're saying that being woke has become authoritarianism. That's why the word woke, which originally was fine, alerts to injustice. I'm down, always have been, but it became an eye roll because I got more sense for the woke. Yeah, you can't find that thought when you're 150 meters from the Russians. When you're seeing the devastation and vaporization of human beings, you're not going to remember all the pronouns. So that I've been preaching that. So basically, the only time they mention the word pronouns is because they're saying, oh, see, if you're fighting against Russians, you're not going to remember pronouns. And so people should know that. It's like, what? Of course you're going to remember pronouns. If you're fighting with a man or a woman, you're going to be like, oh my god, my She died. You know, when your
I mean,
fellow soldier
yeah.
dies, you're gonna be like, she died. Oh no.
I mean, typically, if you talk about like a big group of soldiers, typically you say they.
Yeah.
Oh no.
They're talking
I
about
guess.
traveling to the Ukraine. What is happening? This is insane, this podcast episode.
I guess traveling to Russia makes you forget, I don't know, basic English.
Yeah. So if you think of traveling into the UK, like the first thing that comes to my mind is being, well, not have enough opportunities to be able to do this trip to the front line. Huh? What? You're not gonna fight! What are you talking about? Sean Penn and Bill Mayer aren't gonna fight in Ukraine to defend Ukraine. What is happening? They're talking about traveling to the front lines. You're not gonna do that. Why are you talking about that? Okay, anyway, that was the one time they mentioned the word pronoun in that podcast, and it was saying that you're not gonna remember pronouns when you're in, you know, when you're fighting a war. It's like, okay, does that change any of the arguments about that trans people have regarding pronouns? And does that even make any sense considering everyone has pronoun?
Yeah. I just can't believe it. Like your way of not remembering pronouns is if you fight in the Ukrainian war.
Yeah. And yeah,
So,
they went into a
okay.
tangent of like, oh man, I think about traveling to the Ukraine and going to the front lines. I'm like, I don't think there's gonna be any opportunities. I'm like, what? If you want to fight, just go there and volunteer to fight, right? I don't
Why?
understand.
I'm like, why? Why?
I don't
Like,
know, Jeb. I think they're just trying to
surely-
make a point of like how that war is way more important than just like, you know, debates regarding pronouns.
I thought like a load of right wing people were very mad at Biden spending money to help Ukraine in the war.
Yeah.
What's the narrative at this point?
I don't know.
uh,
To
is
be
it
fair,
anti-Russia,
I
anti-war?
think most right wing people are anti-Russia. I think there are a lot of dumb ones that aren't, but I think generally they're like it's bad because Russia represents socialism and authoritarianism is like against American values. So
Socialism is against American values. Oh man.
oh yeah, just you know, oh Jeb and I could spend like 5 hours talking about politics regarding that.
Okay, let's just say the American dream, it relies on socialism.
Yeah, even though they're insanely anti-socialist to a point where any type of what's the name? Not healthcare. What's the word? When the government helps people.
Government support, I don't fucking know.
I don't know. There's a word, Jeb. God damn it. It's social.
State funded.
No. I forgot the word, but yeah, that's the idea. They're against basically anything where like the government takes taxes and pays for anything like healthcare, for example, which is why healthcare in America is a joke. Anyway, enough politics.
I blame NATO for the war in Ukraine. Same here. Fuck NATO.
Anyway, back to this video. We're done with Bill Mayer and Sean Penn.
This, pronoun bullshit and all this other stuff, and yeah, I don't get it. It's a little weird, and then but until they start to say something different, nothing's going to change. Unfortunately, we could sit here and talk till we're blue in the face, and they ain't going to listen to us because we're istophobes. So,
Yeah, well, that was
What histophobes? The fuck is that, Jeff?
I think they meant ist or phobes.
Ist or phobes? Okay. Jesus Christ. Sure.
You could talk when you're blue in the face, but the fact of the matter is you're ignorant and you ignore any evidence. So.
I love conservatives thinking they're an oppressed class. Like, we keep talking and nobody listens. It's like, yeah, man, for sure.
well, they've managed to put us in that corner.
See, man, stop fucking victimizing yourself. Jesus Christ.
Lucasfilm has put them in a corner.
No, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it's Lucas. Sorry. Dirt Rod Extremes, right? The Friday Night Tides. Oh, today's Friday. He might be streaming right now. He is. There's 11,000 people watching. Now tell me, does that mean you have no voice and nobody's listening? You have 11,000 people watching you live. You get hundreds of thousands of views. You have 700,000 subscribers. You think nobody's listening? If they don't want to be confused with ists or phobes, maybe they they could present a different behavior. Yeah, if you don't want to be recognized as an ist or a phobe, just don't be that. Wouldn't that be interesting?
This film, Rewriting Ripley, we all know about that. Supported by Pablo Hidalgo.
What? Rewriting Ripley? What is
I
he
think
talking about?
Alien. Alien, probably.
No, I know he's talking about Alien, but what he's talking about rewriting Ripley. Hold on. Pablo Hidalgo. Alien. Let's see. 5 years ago. No, wait. No,
Maybe.
but he's talked about is sorry, let's Ripley. Has he said something about that? Started following rewriting Ripley after she launched the mass flag attacks. Okay. Oh, so rewriting Ripley is a person on Twitter. Rewriting Ripley Pod, apparently a podcast, a new bi-weekly podcast of feminism and fandom in the age of social media. And apparently Pablo Hidalgo followed that page. Jesus Christ, do you have nothing better to do? Jesus. It's like, oh my god, this person supports feminism. How bad is that? Holy crap. I guess they're just mad because he's a Star Wars writer or like consultant, whatever. And they're like, oh, he followed the page that calls out anti-feminist things. Wow.
Who was the lead, executive and member of the story group. They have gone out of their way to silence critics when secretly they knew their stuff was shit.
When have they done that? TLJ made the careers of so many YouTubers. How can you say that they silenced the critics? The Last Jedi is the film that made people get famous.
In your call right there, and
yeah,
like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like TLJ was when people started criticizing films by that lens, like so horribly anti-woke, anti-SJW shit. Like Nerdrotica big around that era. He also, doing reviews of Doctor Who was a little big part of it because his, I at least found his channel because I was watching Series 11 and I was like, this is bad, and I can't really find any reviewers saying that this is bad, and then I found him and I started watching him, which made me fall down the rabbit hole. But like, TLJ is what made these channels get big, and they talk about TLJ to this day. And you have 11,000 viewers right now, right this second, live, watching you. How can you say that they're silencing you? This is insane. It's like when, what's his name? Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, he made a video about, like, leaked stuff from The Last of Us 2, and his video got taken down by Naughty Dog, and it's like, they're trying to silence me. It's like, no, you're showing leaked things from the game. They can't do that. It's within their rights. You're showing like footage from a game that they haven't released yet. That's a leak. You're not supposed to show that. Oh, it's so stupid. These people, they want to be victims so bad.
I mean, like, and then whenever they are wrong, they try and avoid it. So, like Jeremy again, he was one of those leading that the Mario movie's going to be woke SJW, and then he's wondering why people are going, why the fuck are you changing tune all of a sudden?
They did the same thing with House of the Dragon, and it was just because it was releasing at the same time as Rings of Power, and people liked House of the Dragon. So like, no, yeah, House of the Dragon good, despite, like, ignore the videos we made like weeks ago saying that it was gonna be shit because it's woke and they hate men. Ignore those videos, because now, yeah, it's good show, very good show. Rings of Power, that's the bad show, that's the woke show. It's just like so performative, man. It's grifting 101.
And because they were pushing an agenda, and now because the money has run out, not because they've seen they've seen the light, which I would prefer. It's like, oh, maybe we went a little bit too hard on.
So it's funny that they're citing Lucasfilm when Lucasfilm literally just announced they're going in on developing post-sequel trilogy. And
yeah, continuing with Rey as a character, who was the one that people hated so much. If you go by this anti-SJW lens, it just doesn't fit at all. But I guess they would say, no, see, it's Kathleen Kennedy. She's still trying to manipulate things.
It's like, right now, Mandalorian and such are all setting up for the beginnings of the First Order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, season 2 is yeah, but they say it's like, oh, see, it's Kathleen Kennedy trying to, set up the sequels, whereas Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are actually trying to tell a good story, because these people, for some reason, they like Mando. I don't know if they still do, because I haven't watched them in ages, but they used to. So.
I was gonna say season 3 literally had General Hux's father in it.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. That's very funny. I guess, because the Andor Light episode, I think it was episode 3. It's just like an episode of Andor, but like not really as good. And where randomly they cut to this ex-Empire officers now working for the New Republic and shit. The woman hangs around with him. She looks, more masculine. She has short hair. I wonder if they called that woke. Said that episode's boring because we're not seeing Mando shoot up shit.
Yeah, the actress is a lesbian as well, so.
Yeah, she looks. Not to fall into stereotypes, but we support her. I liked her. She was good in that episode. Anyway.
On that one, no, it's we're broke and we can't support, and it just proves that all this virtue signaling BS is.
They're so broke that they've made. Last year they made the highest grossing film since the first Avatar. I don't know how much Avatar 2 grossed, but it's like insane amounts, right? Where does it rank in terms of like highest grossing movies ever? Highest grossing movies all time.
Probably 4th.
Let's see. So first place Avatar is 3rd. It's 3rd.
3rd. Behind Endgame and Avatar 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it passed Titanic, which is insane. Because Titanic even had a re-release recently, right? So it's pretty insane.
2.315 bit. Jesus Christ. How?
Yeah, and that's a Disney film. I don't know if people know, but that's a Disney film.
Like, imagine making the first film and then somehow nearly replicating it again with your second at box office.
A James Cameron effect,
And then obviously No Way Home was extremely successful, and that was 2021.
Yeah.
I think that was the highest grossing of that year.
Yeah, and Multiverse of Madness did well as well. They definitely had stinkers since then, but that did well. I don't know exactly if you can spot a pattern, like you're saying.
And then
they called Cara Dune woke. Oh yeah, they did. They used to say she was like the strong female character until Gina Carano was fired. Yeah, she's like, she's just a token strong female character. That was funny.
And then Loki, Mando, WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier all producing records. Really, the bad patch has only been happening this year. Really. And we're only 4 months in, so things could easily change.
Yeah, I mean, Guardians 3 could very easily be a change of tides.
Has been like we've been saying.
Well, yeah, but did Kevin Feige not come out and say, we're not going to back off from all of this stuff, like all this virtue signaling, all the.
I have no idea. I'm not gonna.
I think he actually said that. Just
and I don't even know how I would be able to find that quote to like fact check Drinker, because he's not gonna have said virtue signaling or something.
It's just the image of Kevin Feige going, yeah, we're gonna back off from all this virtue signaling woke sort of stuff, shit. Like just him saying that in relation to like Ant-Man and the Wasp or something.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Gary thinks Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania are woke films because the films are way more about Wasp than they are about Ant-Man, which is not true at all. If you've seen either film, you know that Wasp isn't a character. But I think he says that because like she's the one who gets things done. I don't know.
You mean Antifa Man and in
Mania? Yeah, that is the name he gave Ant-Man. But was it him or was it Az?
I think it was Az.
Yeah, I think it was Az. At least we can be happy in the fact that the bald person here isn't Az. Tom Connors is better than Az, just by virtue of not being Az. It's very hard to be as bad as Az.
Political stuff. We just have to get better at disguising it, and so people.
I'm fairly sure Feige didn't say that, but Frank sure. I don't know what the fuck he says. We get better at disguising the woke stuff.
People don't pick up on it quite as much, and it's like, well, that's not really fixing the problem, Kevin. That's just like covering it up a little bit.
how long are you gonna sing that tune when your films are starting to flop again and again and again? I wonder. Sorry,
Yeah.
capitalism kicks
yeah.
in eventually. Like,
Well,
Yeah, they're not, despite they're not singing that tune, they make moves that are the most profitable for them, or that they think will be the most profitable. It's just so far, it's just recently that it's become more of an issue when it comes to making the film so much as like of like products coming out of like a factory line rather than being actual like films, which is the issue, I would say.
your
The problem is-
stockholders are gonna be like, "What the fuck you doing?" Like,
the thing is, once you get that adversarial like attitude amongst the fans towards your own company and the products you're putting out, it's really difficult to turn that around.
Is that, I imagine, okay, what he probably is actually saying is this kind of stuff where they say, oh, they hate the fans, like Star Wars makes fun of its own fans, and that kind of shit that they love to spout that doesn't really make any sense. When it's like when Star Wars and on Twitter, the Star Wars account was like, he replied to someone being, was it transphobic? I think it was, or racist. No, it was racist because of Reva's actress, right? I think that was it. I think that happened last year. What best faith would be here is to say that there's an adversarial aspect is when you have people going against the company because of malpractices, such as the way they exploit VFX workers, which is something that's been well documented over the past year and something that a lot of people have complained about over time. That would be what I would be talking about if I said there was like, a sense of like people who are Marvel fans, but actually like that really are against Marvel, really mad at Marvel currently. That would be why. That's not what I think Drinker is saying though. So
it's already dead essentially unless you course correct quickly. And Star Wars had course corrected in 2018, and Marvel
2018.
Did they
They
course
didn't really
correct it?
2018
More
was
so just
Solo, and then 2019 was Rise of Skywalker, then Mando season 1. I don't really think it's course correcting. They're just making more of the stuff they'd already planned. What is he saying?
And they're, as we said, they're literally going in on it.
Yeah. Guess the course correcting would be hiring Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to make shows for them. That would
Yeah,
be
that's
what it
gone
considers
really
it.
well.
Yeah.
That's been amazing.
It's because, like, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, you know that they agree with this stuff, right? What you'd call woke. They are woke in that sense.
They're working with Kathleen Kennedy. There isn't a Lucasfilm Civil War.
Oh yeah, but if you say that, Jeb, Gary isn't gonna have any content to make, so he needs it to be true.
course corrected 2019, it might be different, but when you let it go too long, it damages your brand. But their hubris is, no, Marvel is now that red rectangle with the Marvel in it, and it's not what it really is. Spider-Man, X-Men, and
What are you talking about?
What?
What? That point made no sense. What? Their hubris is
See,
like, we
Marvel
can
isn't
keep doing what
Marvel,
we're
it's-
doing and not using Spider-Man and the X-Men, even though they've set up the X-Men to show up soon. Spider-Man came out a film 2 years ago and was one of their highest grossing films. What the fuck is
And
your
it's got
point?
and it's got a Disney Plus show next year.
Spider-Man, yeah. And aren't they fucking X-Men 97? Isn't that show coming back
Yeah,
too?
that's how they released them. Like
Yeah.
they've been doing X-Men stuff in like Multiverse of Madness and set it up with Miss Marvel. So like they're still gonna do it, but it's just gonna be a little while.
Namor as well.
Oh yeah, Namor is
Is-
a mutant.
And I think they are doing yeah, they've begun work on Spider-Man 4 as well.
Yeah.
Feige said in February 2023.
No, yeah, mentioning, saying like, oh, Marvel with Spider-Man. Yeah, they do Spider-Man films. He's what sells the most. That's why they did the film with all 3 Spider-Man 2 years ago. It's because they knew it was going to sell. It's also like, it's not that like the MCU owns Spider-Man. It's like they have a deal with Sony. Sony owns the Spider-Man IP. Sony are doing a lot of Spider-Man stuff. Like, there's going to come out Across the Spider-Verse this year.
And there's like another one after that, which is Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, and this one's part 1, right? So it'll be Across the Spider-Verse part 1 and 2, and then
And
yeah.
and they're doing random shit like Madam Web. El Muerto's been
Yeah, they're
plot hole,
doing the
surprisingly.
Sony-verse of
And there's a Craven film coming out this year, I think.
yeah, they're doing
Yeah.
the Sony-verse with the villain characters, the Spider-Man villain characters, and which they've also confirmed that there is a Spider-Man in that universe. So like, they're definitely building up to like more Spider-Man stuff. Spider-Man stuff is happening. The X-Men stuff, it's because it was owned by Fox. Disney bought Fox. They couldn't use for a while, but all plus plans. But like the deal of between Fox and Disney took a while to get done. That's
And
why they're
plus,
not
like, I
meeting.
think legally they like if they want to use the X-Men now, it would have to be the old actors. I think that's part of like the contract and
Oh,
why Hugh Jackman, part of why Hugh Jackman is coming back.
right. I mean, he's coming back
Not
because
the whole,
he asked to, but
like, not
yeah,
the whole reason, but like it's
yeah,
because they
yeah,
can't cast a new Wolverine. Like
that makes sense.
it's it's legal stuff basically. Part of why they can't really do it right out the gate.
Yeah, and speaking of X-Men, they're doing a Deadpool 3 with Logan, with Wolverine, with Hugh Jackman. How is that not? I don't understand what your point, Gary. I don't know. And yeah, like it's, Jota, I don't know how to pronounce. Said, fellas, is it bad to make movies of new characters? Like, yeah, Marvel are trying to set up new characters, like they did when
Literally,
the universe began. They're trying to set up new characters for people to get invested in, because you can't milk the same character since 2008. You know, because the actors leave, time passes, they get older, which is why Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans aren't going to return. But you still have a lot of the older ones. Like you have Hulk still as a character. Thor just came out 2 years ago, a year ago. I think it was last year, yeah. So it's silly. They haven't lost any. It's not. Oh, so you're Portuguese, nice. JM, yeah, I'm Brazilian, so cool.
MCU did the impossible and took two B-list characters, Iron Man and Captain America, I'll even say Black Panther and Thor, and turned them into household names where everybody knows who they are, and then they didn't recast them and killed them all off.
Thor's not fat anymore.
Thor
wasn't recast, yeah. Thor didn't die. He's still around.
And he's not fat anymore.
Did he say Thor's fat? I think it might be a couple seconds ahead.
He just said you didn't recast him to kill them all off. Like I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I
And then he said and made them fat.
I think you're
Yeah.
a couple seconds ahead then. Anyway, whatever. Point being, Thor isn't dead. He didn't mention Hulk, which was interesting. I guess because people already knew about Hulk prior to the MCU.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't mention Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye and Black Widow. I guess they
Uh,
did
Black-
kill off Black Widows.
Black Panther died because they felt Chadwick Boseman's legacy couldn't be.
Yeah, it's because the actor
Replaced.
died. Yeah, do you think they're just gonna recast a year after he dies? I think that's a bit insensitive.
Tony Stark died because Robert Downey Jr.'s been there for.
No,
10
yeah, it's also
years.
like, are you just gonna recast? You're gonna continue with the same character, just gonna continue on? I feel like it's so much like a more fitting ending for his character to just have his character die, sacrifice himself to save the universe, as well as like, you're not gonna abandon Iron Man as like a character. You're gonna have Ironheart, right? Riri. They are doing more stories of characters relating to those. Those who
Yeah,
died.
well, they probably think her and Sam Wilson as Cap is woke and stuff because the whole Steve Rogers as Captain America thing they keep saying over and over again.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that.
And turn them into household names where everybody knows who they are, and then they didn't recast them and killed them all off and made them fat. It's like they're dumb. They're just dumb. They're dumb Hollywood executives, and
It's not dumb to finish off a story and continue on with new characters.
They had been the characters for like 10+ years by that point.
Yeah, it was 11 years.
Well, Robert Downey Jr. didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Understandably,
Well, yeah,
Chris
but
Evans-
somebody tries to say they recast General Ross. Yeah, but it's General Ross. That's like a very minor character who's been in like 2 films for like the total of 5 seconds. And to be fair, Incredible Hulk was more of a character, but still, it's much easier character to recast. He hasn't. Did he show up in Infinity War Endgame? I think he did in
he
Endgame.
showed up in
Infinity War for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, yeah, he's barely shown up, and now he's gonna be an actual character, and you know,
Yeah,
you're not recasting like Robert Downey Jr. with Tom Cruise.
like it's worth noting T'Challa became a global sensation. It's very much different. They felt it's weird with Chadwick Boseman because it's also kind of considered the fact that when he was in the role, he was suffering with cancer as such. When he was seeing kids, he was with cancer as such. So it became to the point where the character was synonymous with him. No disrespect to William Hurt. Not a lot of people know him as general roles.
but I don't think it's disrespectful. I don't think he would cite that as his like the role people recognize him for as General Ross. He's had a long career. I don't think General Ross is one that people identify him with.
Like if you had Robert Downey Jr., God forbid, die after Avengers 2, I don't see them recasting Iron Man because Robert Downey Jr. is synonymous with that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so synonymous that they've literally made the comic more like the movie version. Like that's how synonymous.
Yeah,
is.
and like with Hugh Jackman as well. People have said like, oh, the X-Men are done. You're not. I don't think you should like have Wolverine as a character because that would mean you need to recast him in the MCU, and we don't want him recast. He's such like an iconic version of that character that we can't see him being played by anyone else, and Hugh Jackman doesn't want to play him anymore until he did. But you know, that being the point, it's like even Hugh Jackman being alive, people didn't want him changed. So with Chadwick Boseman, yeah, and William Hurt is a very different scenario where it's just like him and the character are very separate.
Yeah, to get back on topic, it's worth noting that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. had the choice to renew their contracts. They both said no. So it wasn't the Hollywood executives, it's also the actors choosing they want to end game.
Yeah.
They think, well, we could just restart this at any time. No, you had your one chance, and now it's gone. Apathy will set in, and there's really no coming back from that. You know, people will move on. You know, I've seen the chat mentioning it today. We got a movie that is being, positively reviewed. A couple of my friends have seen it and said it kicks ass. John Wick 4, it's just your basic action movie, and those are a lot cheaper to make.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's see the budget. John Wick 4 budget 100 million. I want to say a lot cheaper. It is cheaper than MCU films. Not depends on the type of superhero film, but yeah, I guess half the budget usually.
Guardians 3 budget. Just getting like some rough ideas. Guardians 3 hasn't stated what its budget is yet. Multiverse of Madness 175 to 200. Quantumania I think is 200. We established that. 4-4 budget. 4-4 is 250 million. Jesus Christ. But that's really high end for like any film.
Yeah.
What else? Eternals, No Way Home budget. Let's see that. 200 million. So 200 million is about roughly where you'll see an MCU movie.
And John Wick 4 was 100 million. It's also apparently also almost 3 hours long. Jeez. Okay. Anyway, he didn't finish his point. I just wanted to fact check that the budget was indeed much lower than an average MCU film. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Mahler really didn't like John Wick 4. Zod, you probably know better than
me. Yeah. I saw the Metals Forge and the EFAP on it, and yeah, they really don't like it. It's similar with the other two ones after the first one. Like, they really don't like how it's gotten to a more absurd sort of areas rather than more sort of grounded way it was in the first one.
That's fair. I only watched 1 and 2.
Yeah. This is what makes me question actually, like how much longer this genre has to go. I mean, I mentioned this in my Shazam 2 review. Like, I feel like the comic book industry now, or the comic book movie, is going into its twilight years.
I disagree. I don't think we can say really reached like a golden era. I think it would when there's like a competition that's actually competitive between Marvel and DC, where they're both prospering. because you see Marvel going down, but I think the interest in the future DC movies is way higher. Which I think DC is probably gonna enter like an era where they make a lot of money and they're smart with the amount of money they spend on making films, instead of Marvel, which keeps reshooting films until like the week that the film comes out.
Yeah, it's like when it's when the whole slate was announced. So it was like a James Gunn Superman movie and a Matt Reeves Batman movie coming out in 2025, and it's like DC is kind of making a comeback. It's like making a
Mhm.
proper comeback from how it was like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I bet fucking
Yeah.
Batman and Superman movie coming out in the same year. It's kind of like, okay, now I'm interested.
Like that hasn't happened like ever. Like that's never happened before. Like,
Yeah.
so like it's a new sort of I wouldn't really say golden age because like
We can't really
you have to
know
see that,
yet,
like,
I'd say.
it'll be the best that DC's been in a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I think it's very hard to say that, like, oh, comic book movies are dying when the DCU never really had a chance. Like, I can call the DCU like an actual attempt at a universe, like an actual universe, interconnected universe. It is an attempt; it's just a very failed one.
Well, I mean, that's still years ago. Who knows what the landscape be like then? Superhero movies will still be the most prominent. Again, it's because of how versatile they are. Like across the Spider-Verse, it won't like do amazing at the box office like people think it will. So some
It'll
people say the
probably do
billion.
better. It'll probably do better than the first film, to be fair, because the
Yeah,
first
it'll
film
do
didn't
better
do
than the
well.
do better than the first film. People are like, oh, it's a billion. It's worth noting anime films do lower than live action because of perception.
It's like I think it was like when all the Mario stuff was coming out, how it's like the Mario film's like the biggest anime sort of opening ever, and I was like until Spider-Verse, and it's like you're really overselling how much Spider-Verse is probably gonna make.
Yeah,
You're
no,
really
Spider-Verse isn't
you're
gonna
really
outgross
overselling it.
Mario. I'm fairly sure.
Like Spider-Verse is going to be a success. It'll probably be at the Oscars. I fully expect it to be.
Hmm.
So the landscape will still be fine. You'll just get like as saturation increases, you start seeing more of these flops. This is completely normal.
Yeah.
There's probably a slight dip right now, but it'll go up again.
Yeah, it's also like we're gonna get Avengers films fairly soon. I think that'll be a good parameter to see how well the name Avengers sells. Right.
Yeah. Although anything can happen given the Jonathan Major situation.
Yeah, they're gonna need to change out a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, nobody knows how the MCU is gonna continue moving forward. It's gonna be interesting.
It's never going to die completely, but it's going to get harder and harder to.
Yeah, those Avengers films are gonna be awful. They're written by Michael Waldron and Jeff Loveness, right? So
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
really get like tentpole movies that people are excited about, because so many things have been done already and so many people are just kind of burned out with it.
so many things have been done already. That makes no sense as a statement. Every type of story has been done already.
I'd argue it's untrue because take the Mario film. It's literally the most basic
Oh
hero
yeah,
story
it's
that's
like
been
it's super
done.
generic story that any basic animated film has already done. It's just doing well because of the Mario brand.
Yeah.
And like, I guess bringing into like comic book movies, but like, seeing we have all the stories of a scene now, but we literally just got the Batman like last year, and that's not really a comic movie. That's more of a detective movie, and Batman's been around for like 80 freaking years, and it took 80 years to make a detective movie with him. Like, there's still plenty of various stories you can tell with these characters. It's just it needs to be in the right hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just needs to. Well, it's just like, oh, everything has been done already. Okay, what about a Swamp Thing horror film directed by James Mangold? Because like that sounds so perfect to me. Written and directed by James Mangold.
Or what about the potential Mike Flanagan Clayface movie?
Oh yes, we need that to happen. Well, what is it? Is it Commandos? Is that the name of the
Creature Commandos?
Creature Commandos. That's also another that's gonna be interesting. There's gonna be a Green Lantern TV show that's gonna be inspired by True Detective. Like, there's so many
There's-
interesting things that they're doing right now with DC.
It's gonna be a Wonder Woman prequel inspired by Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah, like this sounds super creative and original. Obviously, it isn't original. It's like, inspired by Game of Thrones, inspired by True Detective, but you get the point. You're doing something new with the genre. You've not seen a superhero story that's like a Game of Thrones type thing, we are gonna get that. Like, I don't think you can say every story, you say, oh, because we're running out of ideas, things have already been done before. Yeah, every type of story has been done before. You just need to tackle it from a different perspective. It doesn't inherently need to be original to be good, because it's impossible to be original when you're talking about films and art. You're always going to be inspired by other things. Someone mentioned the Snyder fans who are like hoping the DCU fails under James Gunn. They won't matter. People really don't care about the Snyder fans. They're such a vocal minority. They're like in real life, how many like hardcore Snyder fans that want to send bombs to James Gunn's house? Do you know? Because I don't know any of them. Everyone I know hates the Snyder films IRL. It's just
yeah,
it's a very vocal minority that loves to be on Twitter and make a fuss, but they're
It's
not.
they're a small minority, but they are very loud.
Yeah.
They think they're a lot more important than they think they are.
Than they actually are.
Actually, like, yeah.
You did the thing like you did earlier when you said the same thing twice, and it was the opposite. Well done. His argument with Cinema Meredith instead said Marvel wasn't taking really any risks, so people want to see new things in the genre. I would agree with that, yeah. Marvel doesn't feel like it's taking any risks, and that will have people lose interest in the genre, and you can tell that by the way Quantumania underperformed. And just the trend of Marvel films earning less at the box office, but Marvel really seems to have stagnated in terms of like how to tell its stories. Everything's the same. The TV shows are all structured the same. Disney, DC really feels like it is trying something new and different. So I wouldn't say the superhero genre is dying. It's what I come back to in the start. It's the way Disney is producing superhero media. That's the problem, not superhero media itself.
You can't just produce generic like standard boilerplate comic book films anymore, superhero films, and expect people to get excited. That
I agree with that.
ended.
They probably could have gone a lot longer if they hadn't made because like it's incredible they managed to make so much shit in a row. Look at all of Phase 4.
Except for Eternals. Yeah, I kind of agree with this. Because like you see a lot of people, even normies, people who like Marvel, who turned on the MCU on Phase 4, after Phase 4, being like, man, Marvel really fucked up. I think Love and Thunder is probably the last straw for a lot of people. If they had done things that felt more creative instead of just doing like, oh, another hero story with Shang-Chi, that's the exact same of every origin story we've ever seen, with nothing new, and like establishing a lot of world building stuff that isn't going to be mentioned again, like if they had done something more interesting, I think people would have been more interested as time went on. The films feel very safe, so yeah, I would agree with this point.
Like a lot of
I don't blame the perception that it's dying when Marvel was the studio that has dominated for so long. I agree with that. Because Marvel isn't doing as well as it used to, people think the genre itself is dying because Marvel is synonymous to like superhero movies, but they're not the only ones making superhero content. Like you have TV shows like Invincible that did very well. The Boys still does really well, performs really well. You have a lot of other superhero stuff that isn't Marvel, just that they're the most prominent. So yeah, I agree with your point.
industries and IPs don't get
Well,
away with that.
Victoria Alonso.
No, you're 100% right, Mahler. And I've argued that too. It's not superhero movie fatigue. It's just bad movie fatigue, is what it is.
Well, Razor Fist made a really good video about this.
Oh, Razor Fist. Imagine liking Razor Fist. Yeah, but I agree with this point. This point, at least, I don't think they're being bad faith. I think, to be fair, it's because what they consider to be bad is different to what they consider to be bad. They would say woke is bad, whereas like someone like Mahler, what he was saying, like, yeah, I agree with you when you could say like, oh, these things are bad. Usually, I agree with Mahler, so yeah.
I just find it funny that the most reasonable thing that anyone said in this video so far has come from Mahler.
That is expected, to be fair. Okay.
Just recently, where he said like, "Well, yeah, but like that fatigue comes in a lot quicker when you make shit stuff." Like,
Exactly.
Not mutually exclusive. Like he pointed out that even after the westerns were done, we still got
Yeah.
Outlaw Josie Wales. We got like some really good westerns. You know,
Well,
And
well, I
when
think
they-
yeah,
and I agree with him, but I would
his-
compare it not so much to the westerns, but the big budget Hollywood movie. Because you got to remember, this is more.
Interesting. Everyone usually compares to the westerns. He's just like, no, not westerns. Okay. Because I think the problem with westerns is that they're all the same, just the usual like hero's journey type of story. So like westerns that came out in the past like 20, 30 years, 25 years, let's say, they're way more focused on like subverting the genre. Something like is it Unforgiven, the film with Clint Eastwood? I would have assumed Zod knew the name, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah, well, I wasn't listening.
Good. Unforgiven. Is it Unforgiven? 1992. Yes, it is Unforgiven. So, for example, that one is like a story of like a very old, like retiring, gunslinger and shit like that, like with a very, huge past and shit like that. It's like way more different than just like the general, you know, usual hero's journey with a western, like, oh, he goes, he's kind of mean, but he's also a good person, and just go through the hero journey by the end. It's just because like it was always the same, it's just repeating the same type of formula with because they only made those types of movies because they were cheap to make, so there's like tens of them every year. They're all the same, just with different actors, but the story was very similar. And that's the problem with the Marvel movies, that they're repeating the formula. But if you see Western films that are made recently, obviously they are way more scarce. I don't know. Than they used to be. There's way less of them. But they are usually not just a regular Western story. Like you have something like Rango. It's not just a Western. It is a story about Westerns. It's like a love letter to Westerns, and it's kind of poking fun at the genre at the same time as like paying homage to it. And you have things like Bone Tomahawk. What's the name of that other one? With shit, I forgot the name. God damn it, it's a great one. But I think it's a 2016 one that I'm thinking about. Sorry, I forgot the name. You have a lot of westerns that came out recently. You have the remake that James Mangold did of For to Yuma. Those are all like very different in the story it's telling than to the original westerns, but they are still like in the same genre, but they moved on from the same formula, which is the entire issue, which is why I think it's a good comparison. I find it weird that he's not willing to compare westerns to superhero films.
More like it when we were hitting the end of the 60s and into the 70s, right? Because the studios were spending ungodly amounts of money on shit like Cleopatra and Paint Your Wagon.
Yeah.
Right? Like they were spending.
What was the big difference
of,
between the 70s and the 60s is the equipment got cheaper.
Yes, and we're in the same space now. Like, and that's what I'm saying. It's very comparable. Like, I mean, I get the Western analogy, and I don't say it's completely wrong, but I compare it just more to this idea of these big, bloated movies that Hollywood used to feed us. And I think it was Tarantino who basically said, we got sick and tired of fucking musicals and these big bloated westerns that nobody gave a shit about. We wanted something real, and that's where Exorcist, Taxi Driver, Godfather, Rosemary's Baby, all these movies, Easy Rider, ushered in a brand new era. So we're on the cusp of that, but I don't know what it's going to be yet. And
I mean, it kind of feels like it'd be the kind of blockbusters like Avatar 2 and, Top Gun Maverick. Those kinds of films are kind of making a comeback. And a lot of horror films are doing really well, but I think it's just like these films that still look as good as Marvel films do, with high budgets, and they look very expensive, but at the same time they're telling very sincere stories. I think that's the kind of what we're gearing towards. You see studios taking a few more risks again, like a Joker 2 is like, ooh, that's interesting, and that's not going to be like low budget. At the same time, the Batman, that's also like a high budget blockbuster film that's telling a very unique, is not unique, but telling a unique story in the sense of Batman, but telling a detective story, but with a budget of a Marvel film. I feel like that's the kind of way we're going towards.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair sort of assumption.
Yeah. Also, Hell or High Water is the film I was trying to remember. Very good film. It's a modern western. I like it. No, to be fair, Breaking Bad is a modern western, according to what Vince Gilligan says, and he is correct. So yeah, again, a very different type of western, even though the main character is an anti-hero type, more of a villain than just anti-hero. But you get what I mean.
In Marvel, I would that more to those kind of movies. Like we've come past this point where it has saturated the market so much. It's even worse than westerns, because westerns were still just a genre. Like the superhero movies have taken over almost everything. And why? You know, it probably is, Gary. It's probably westerns again, because look at what Yellowstone's doing.
Didn't he just say that he didn't think the the western comparison was very good? He's like, you know what? It is like westerns all over again. Like he just came back to the realization of the thing that he just said he probably wasn't entirely accurate. That's funny. Um,
Right? All the Taylor Sheridan shows are taking off. And what do they have in common most? They're like the old classic Western shows back in the day, like Bonanza and Up Through Dallas. And then you also have like stuff like Tulsa King, which is more like the old school kind of like proceed.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I recognize any of the things he's citing here.
I've heard of it.
I think I recognize Yellowstone, the name, but yeah.
Tulsa King, I 1,000,000% recognize. It's got Sylvester Stallone in it.
Mm.
Okay.
My computer
Some
was
Paramount
lagging a bit,
Plus.
so I closed Premiere Pro. I think that was probably the problem, chat. So if it was lagging for you, that was why.
Procedural shows we used to get back in the 70s and 80s, in a way.
Great show. Great.
Yeah.
Show.
And
No,
maybe that's where we're headed.
Yellowstone, I really like.
Yeah. Have you seen Tulsa King yet? Critical.
No,
Tulsa
yeah,
King's
no, I want to
fucking
finish
amazing,
Yellowstone first.
man.
So I like Quentin Tarantino, but he's not the be all end all. He said the 80s is one of the worst eras of movies, and he's totally
you know
full
what?
of shit on that.
I have no idea what he said because he was cutting off. I hope he didn't say Tarantino's made bad films, because I very much disagree. I don't think he's made any bad films. But yeah, I didn't hear what Gary said because Tom Connors was interrupting him. Very rude person. I would never interrupt someone during ECUM. Anyway.
Did you read Gary? And I understand why he said that now.
Well, yeah, because what I saw in an interview, and he was talking.
Yeah, I know.
I think we did get some good film in the 70s. We got some classic like that. That's kind of a golden age, but it was also like just so much fucking nihilism in the 70s. And we're
Oh, okay. So Tarantino said that the 70s had like a lot of bad films, and that's what they were disagreeing with. I guess the idea there were only bad films. Tarantino probably said that. Probably didn't say verbatim, but now I get the point. Tarantino, to be fair, has very weird views about a lot of shit. Like, he's a fantastic filmmaker, but he says some insane shit sometimes. Like, he says if you film with digital cameras instead of shooting on film, you're lazy. Which is just like, no! You're calling, like, Roger Deakins a lazy cinematographer. He's just, yeah. He has some weird views.
Seeing that now. And it was the 80s that brought back a lot of positivity and fun that maybe just not to Quentin's taste. That's
well, yeah, it was the 70s. Like, it was kind of defined by, like, you know, economic problems, like Vietnam, like kind of coming out of that.
I lived it. Yeah, it was dark.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
and just real quick, the 80s thing, because I've read his book, and in the book he gives a lot more context to it, and I agree with him more, because he's not saying that all the movies were bad. What happened is when you came out of the 70s, he was like, they were afraid to take chances in the 80s. Everything was so much like the 50s, where everything had, even if you had an inexplicable ending that didn't make any goddamn sense, as long as it was a happy ending. And he's like, the audience is right. He's like, I can't argue with the audience. They wanted to feel good when they came out of those movies. They didn't want Taxi Driver anymore in the 80s. They wanted Top Gun. They wanted these kind of movies where you felt like, yeah, when you came out of it. Like, you know, you couldn't have Rocky end the way it did in the original film. That's why by Rocky 2 and 3, he had to win. Right? Like,
wasn't it like really? It was like Reaganism that really brought in this spirit of like
that's what he meant.
Patriotism, bombastic, over the top, like awesomeness, you know. And that's why you got.
I hope Draker doesn't like Reagan. That kind of implied. I hope not. Jabber, you awake? Oh, you are awake.
I am. I'm just processing all this because the 80s still had like classics, like E.T. came out, Terminator 1 came out.
No, but they're not talking about classics. They're talking about films that are feel-good films. that's what happened in the
But
80s.
like,
Not inherently bad or
but
good.
like, they're citing that this is very much like the 80s.
Yeah,
where
the
it's
80s had
very
feel-good
formulaic.
films. Yeah, no, they're saying that Tarantino said that in the 80s no films could end like sadly. All films had to have a happy ending, even if it didn't make any sense. That's something Tarantino said, and they're citing what he said, saying that they followed that formula, and every film for formulaic then, and it's comparable to what's happening right now with superhero films.
Let me remember a choice of this film quick. Sophie's Choice. That came out in the 80s.
No, yeah, I imagine there are a lot of films that break that mold. It's a point that Tarantino is making. I don't like. They even said that they don't agree with that point, inherently.
I was gonna say because like Sophie's Choice came out literally in '82.
Yeah, I'm sure there are 80s films that don't fit that formula. And Tarantino's Tarantino. He says weird shit.
It was usually the all-conquering American hero that won the day in the 80s movies.
And no, he's not the end-all be-all, but to his credit, he also did point out that now is worse than then anyway. So
Way worse. Way
Well,
worse.
it's nice that some people are catching up.
Yeah, and they're not taking any chances now. It's worse than it's ever been.
Yeah, that's untrue. You're taking a lot of chances. Do you think Joker wasn't taking a chance? Do you think Iron Man 1 wasn't taking a chance? Oh, well. Huge chance.
I mean, the best picture, Everything Everywhere All at Once was.
Yeah, I mean, it's an
literally
A24 films. A24 is known for taking
Yeah.
chances. That's their entire thing. They finance movies like insane. Like The Lamb, the
don't
film
you-
I was mentioning earlier about the lamb / human baby. That's a film that they made a couple of years ago. They financed, they produced it. It wasn't a good
And
film, but they did do it. Then there's The Lighthouse, there's The Witch. There's a lot of films taking chances.
And they literally praise John Wick 4 like a few, like not even 5 minutes ago. And obviously Top Gun Maverick. They're very
Formula.
yeah.
Yeah, they're very just like classic action films types. Yeah, that is actually interesting because if you compare that is very formulaic when compared to things that take risks. Horror is the genre that I think is taking a lot of risks recently. Some of the others not inherently.
Well, this is why it might, to go back to your point about what's going to supersede superhero movies. I've heard people suggest that it might be video game adaptations now. Like, we've reached that point where we're actually capable of making pretty good adaptations of things.
I would argue, I don't know if those will ever work because I think the stories work better in the games.
Depends on how you adapt it, right? I feel like you could very easily make a Red Dead Redemption TV show. So the story of both games and adapt it into a TV show very well. I mean, The Last of Us did a very good adaptation. It isn't perfect, but it is decent.
It's also like a lot of the most popular gaming franchises you can make an original story out of, like Mario's original story.
Yeah, Mario
bringing
doesn't
in
have
those
like an actual like story in the video games. You can just make something out of it. And I think Arcane as well is like a fantastic example of that because the story has nothing to do with like cinematics and shit of what you have in League of Legends, which is also a game just doesn't have a story, right? But it did tell your original story with those characters. It's still an adaptation of League of Legends, but it's still fantastic.
Sonic's done it as well. If we enter expansion, Zelda's probably going to be the next big one. Zelda's very easy to do original story on. It's it's the easiest one you probably get because the franchise doesn't have like sequel after sequel. They do all their own stories at random points.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you could do a lot.
As somebody who doesn't game, but like, isn't that
As somebody who doesn't game well, then that's very insightful, Garrett. Zod games a lot. It's in his name. So
I do indeed.
yeah, your opinion is the most valid here.
Yeah.
That sounded so genuine. That was very cute. I try to think of other video game adaptations. I don't really care much because I don't unless there's like a way to improve in those stories in the adaptation. I feel like it should remain in its original medium. Like I mentioned, Red Dead Redemption, you could very easily make a good TV show out of it. I would still prefer to play it in video game form. It adds a lot to the experience. Detective Pikachu. Yeah, well, wasn't that inspired by one of the Pokemon games that has like a Detective Pikachu character? But that was like an original story, right? Because Pokemon games have a very thin story. Just get to the final gym and win the day. Is Edge Runners good? Not watched it. Well, Zodiac, what do you think?
I think it needed more episodes, but no, overall it was pretty solid.
Cool. Yeah, Shandy really likes it as well. That's all I know about it. I've not watched it. But that also is a different story, right? It's not just like the story of the game of 2077, right? It's like it's set in the same universe or similar universe or something.
Yeah, I think it is supposed to be set in the same universe, just
Right.
a year before. It's like set in the same city.
Right.
And I think they even updated the game to throw in some references to the show to show that it's
Right.
all taking place in the same sort of place.
Yeah, I think yeah, and that's an original story as well. So yeah, you can do a lot if you consider it, that kind of thing in video game adaptation. Just using the IP basically.
Wait, Gary.
Isn't that more experiential? Like if you're there and you're controlling the story instead of seeing somebody else's interpretation of it.
This is why
I
the
think
games
so,
will
like,
almost
there's-
always be better, but because they'll especially adapt successful games. But think about it: House of the Dragon did really well deserved. Last of Us did better. So it looks like we may be. Mario's going to make over $1 billion. Everyone's been saying it.
Yeah.
Like,
I
Is that
still
lo-
don't think
Yeah, I
that.
don't think a billion, but yeah.
I think 800 million. That's my prediction.
Sam, you do know that God of War is being adapted, right? They are making a God of War movie.
Yeah, based on the
TV series.
2018 version.
Yeah,
on
Yeah.
Netflix.
it's gonna be an Amazon film, right?
TV
Is it
series, but
Amazon?
yeah.
TV series.
Yeah,
Okay,
TV
okay,
show,
okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Then you got Gears of War. That's getting an adaptation. We had Halo.
Oh yeah, Halo
Horizon's
was a
getting an
thing.
adaptation on Netflix.
There's also going to be like Assassin's Creed TV show, I think. I don't know, like that's been on and off for years.
There's going to be a Twisted Metal project. Jack and Daxter is even getting a film
Ghost of
somehow.
Tsushima is getting a film from Chad Stahelski.
Honestly, I'm surprised Jack and Daxter's getting a fucking film of anything.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like something that would do very well box office wise.
No, it won't. I don't understand why Naughty Dog want it unless they want to revive Jack and Daxter. which
Yeah,
I'm all
unless it's
for.
just like let's do the film and then let's make another game.
You
Yeah.
go.
You go to 10.
No, I was gonna say, isn't it being done by the same guy who did the Uncharted movie? Like
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, that's someone shouting to chat.
Like, there's only going to be 2 people in the UK watching it, and that's going to be Jay and I.
Hey, maybe you go to the same show and you get to meet Jay.
I'll stalk them, find out where they go.
Yeah, just to talk about the film with her. They already fumbled Uncharted and Assassin's Creed law. I mean, yeah, but they could do it well. Like if they
I think
try.
they're doing a different Assassin's Creed project now.
Yeah, because it's like a TV show, but it's different from the movie because the movie was like. The movie's canon, I think, and it's still canon because they reference it a few times and still have the characters' outfits show up in like legacy games and that. But the series, I think, is gonna like be set in different time periods and be mostly just the past bit without most of the modern bit. I'm not sure. I've been out of the Assassin's Creed fandom for a few years now.
Fake fan.
There's another big IP that's getting something. I think Borderlands is getting something,
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
and there's another one.
Borderlands is another one that I think you could do an adaptation well. I like the first
a-
game.
I think there's another one. That's it. Fallout TV show.
Oh yeah, we're getting Fallout.
Okay.
Fallout is another one that could be done very well if you do like an original story just set in the universe of like the premise. Because like you're not just gonna do the story of like Fallout 4 about like the dad and the kid or whatever, and Fallout 3, which I don't know the story because I've not played it, or New Vegas is, like those stories have already been told. It's way better if you do like a new story, right, and another vault, new stuff, new characters. I feel like that would be way better. Though to be fair, they love like the references and shit, so who knows? It
Yeah, I
could be good
mean,
though.
I do feel bad to it. I don't think Sonic was counting. I wouldn't count Sonic as like one of them that started it, because Sonic's always been adapted even in like TV series that have been successful. So
I think
I think
Sonic just proved that it can be successful and it can be liked by general audiences. It doesn't just make money
yeah,
because of the IP, it makes money because of the IP and people like it.
I think the film showed that you can do video game films that I liked.
Yeah.
Do agree.
Launches like the Nintendo Cinematic
Seems like
Universe, the
Last of Us,
NCU.
like the Last of Us talk died down towards the end to me.
I'm not gonna. I would say that I think House of the Dragon folk lasted longer. I'm just saying the view counts ended up surpassing
Yeah,
House of the Dragon. And they're rushing season 2 already because
BioShock movie was in development. Gore Verbinski was
That
gonna
is
direct
true.
it? Oh man, I wanted that.
There is a
With the
BioShock
writer of
movie.
Rango, Skyfall and Gladiator. Really? Which means they work together on Rango. Ma, man, I wanted that. I love Gore Verbinski. Ah, I'm so mad right now. The fact that he's not attached to that anymore. Fuck. Boo. That sucks.
It's gonna be a Netflix adaptation. As well.
It's gonna be great.
that's happening if they think.
Oh yeah,
"Wow,
The Witcher is a. Well,
Oh yeah.
is it a game adaptation or is it adapting the books? Because I've never played the game.
It's book and
Because
game,
the
I
game's
think.
set after the books, and this is like, well, let's say adapting the books but like officially they're like adapting the early stories, but like
Right.
you can sort of see it as like a game adaptation.
Mhm.
If you squint, maybe.
I guess you could just
How do
count
you-
it as a video game IP, even if not a video game adaptation. Because like most people know the IP because of the games and not because of the books. Most people haven't read the books. Most people have only
It's
played
like
the games.
it's a funny sort of relationship that has with the games and that. So
Mhm.
I can't believe we forgot about Cyberpunk as well.
What? We mentioned Edge Runners, Jeb.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that bit.
There was an
Cuphead's
entire
another
conversation
one.
about it, Jeb. Jesus Christ.
Cuphead's another. Castlevania.
Oh yeah,
Someone
Cuphead
should
was
look that up.
also. I heard it's good. Castlevania, I heard it has good stuff in the beginning, but I don't know. I've not seen it.
What else is there?
There have
Something
been a lot of
Sega.
video game adaptations. Quite impressed.
Something Sega's happening. Not Sonic, but
Shadow the Hedgehog, the movie.
I wish. But what is it? There we go. Space Channel 5 and Comic Zone. Also, Street Fighter's getting a film.
Oh yeah, Mortal
True,
Kombat
like-
had like 16 films in the past 10 years. It had like 2, but
Yeah.
still 3, I think.
Street Fighter's being made by Lionsgate. God, there's so many. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's a lot of video game adaptations. I think the it is the new like, oh, let's all adapt video games, and they're trying to every company trying to get their hands on some video game IP to be able to adapt it.
And then Nintendo's just blowing it all out of the water box office wise.
Yeah.
Like it
I
always
know.
does.
like the reason I assume they're rushing it from a corporate standpoint is they're like, holy fuck, this thing made money. People like this.
but House of the Dragon also had Game of Thrones season 8. But it did
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, and it still managed to do. And I think House of the Dragon season 2 will do a lot better.
On the
I hope
video
so.
game thing, I think you're right that they're going to try to do some more video games because you're right. Mario is going to possibly be the biggest film of this year. It has that potential.
I don't think so. Maybe?
Eh,
Other than Guardians 3, what other big budget films are coming out this year? Jab,
Hmm.
I'm asking you.
What's up?
Oh my god, Jab doesn't pay attention. Jab, other than Guardians 3, what other big budget films are coming out this year?
What would you say is big budget?
A film that'll gross a lot.
Um,
Because we're gonna see if Mario is gonna be the highest grossing of the year. I don't think so. Didn't they
movies,
criticize House of the Dragon for being woke? They did before it came out, and then it came out and people liked it. Oh yeah, we're gonna have Barbie and Oppenheimer. Yeah, no, sorry. Mario isn't going to be the highest grossing film. We have a Nolan film and Barbie.
I'm just having a look through this list as well because it lists like a load that's anticipated. It's like 55 of them.
Well, Sam, think of it as a good thing because the director of District 9 has done a lot of terrible things. He's very bad. That's what he does. I forgot his name. Hold on.
Rotten Tomatoes, the 55 most anticipated films. Shazam 2.
Oh, wait.
that aged
Neo
well.
Blomkamp. That's his name. I hate Neo Blomkamp.
We just had Mario, so
What was the
Past
film he
that.
did like a year ago? Demonic. Yeah, that was shit. Oh my god.
we
that film.
forgot about Fast 10. How did we forget about Fast 10?
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna gross
I
really
think-
well. They always do.
I think The Little Mermaid will do well.
Yeah, it's Disney live action always does. Dune 2 comes out this year?
I think so, yeah.
So if it does, that's also another that's gonna do really well.
Across the Spider-Verse, I think will gross a lot.
I don't
But
think
not
it'll
like-
outgross Mario.
Rise of the Beasts could.
Yeah,
It's good.
Transformers as well is another. Yeah, I don't think Mario's gonna be number one. I'm sorry,
The
Sam,
Flash.
Tom Connors.
I think The Flash will gross a lot.
It's
Big-
I think so. It has Michael Keaton, has cameos and shit, multiverse stuff. Usually that does well.
Elemental's coming out this year. That might do well.
What is that? The
Indiana
Pixar film?
Jones. Yeah, Indiana Jones 5's this year.
Oh yeah,
It's on my birthday.
That'll definitely do. Well.
yeah. That'll
Mission
also
Im-
do.
That should do.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
new
Mission
Mission Impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 8. Jesus,
Oh,
yeah,
fuck, yeah.
this year's gonna be
That's
insane for films. Jeez. Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that might do alright. Gran Turismo's
Hmm.
this year apparently. Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
Uh,
Blue Beetle, I don't think is gonna do very well. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I don't see it
No.
working.
Yeah, Dune Part 2 is this year, November the 3rd. The Marvels.
Hmm.
Apparently a new Hunger Games film.
Oh yeah, there's the prequel. Yeah.
Oh, that,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool where it's got like Peter Dinklage in that in it, and Hunter Schafer.
Yeah.
Apparently the Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Sequel. Wait, it's coming out this year?
Is it?
Aquaman 3's coming out this year apparently.
Aquaman 2.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Aquaman 2.
Aquaman
I don't
3.
care about Aquaman.
Did they manage to film an entire sequel while the first one was still coming out?
Yeah.
Wonka might do well.
Oh yeah, is that this year? Jesus.
Yeah.
It's December the 15th.
Yes.
So yeah,
Jesus Christ.
so we got quite a lot of stuff ongoing.
Yeah, I don't think Mario is going to be the highest grossing. I think just easily Barbie, Oppenheimer, Dune 2.
None of them will outgross Mario. Oppenheimer's outgrossing fucking Mario.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Fucking
Oppenheimer,
Nolan
no.
film that's been very hyped up.
Oppenheimer's making over $1 billion. Corner now.
I'm not entirely sure. I'd say like 700 mil, 800.
I'm calling it now. Over $1 billion. I put my life on the line.
I mean, I do think it's likely. I just don't think. Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, I disagree with Tom Connors. Boo.
The other side, Last of Us, has been getting a lot of talk. So I think they're going to attempt, but I think the problem, and this is just my opinion, I think the problem they have now is the opposite problem they had of back in the day when they tried to adapt video games. Back then, it was because they didn't have much to work with. That's why the Mario movie from '93 is so batshit crazy, because they didn't really have much of an established universe, right?
They still don't.
No, I was
not
gonna
gonna
say
lie
by
to
that
you.
point, did they have like all the famous like different characters and worlds and like
Yes.
Mario Kart was that all the thing back then?
Let me check the exact release date of the Mario Bros. Movie. I'm certain they did.
It was 1993, I think.
Oh, then yeah, definitely. I don't think Mario Kart was out for that. Hold on,
Right.
let me check.
It's because like
Wait, no,
by
yeah, it
now,
was.
because like the Mario movie, the new one, it references a lot of new games that came out the past few years.
So Super Mario Kart was 92. I know Donkey Kong was
Yeah.
first game. was SNES.
Yeah, maybe it was just bad shit because they they didn't know what they were doing with that film.
They didn't have Donkey Kong Country at that point, but they had Donkey Kong. They had enough there to make their own film.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
They just
I guess
decided
the
to make
idea
a
was that they
live
wanted to
action.
do it live action because like they're
Instead
doing it
of
with
trying to
the
do, like,
illumination and animated makes way more sense. Tin,
yeah.
were you gonna say something, Tin?
No, I was gonna say that it's just they randomly decided to make it like a cyberpunk sort of Mario movie where like Bowser's a human most of the time and shit.
Yeah.
Well, I could
The
kind
Goombas
of
are
explain
amazing.
I could kind of explain why they did it. So Nintendo was a bit weird in the early 90s. They were trying to expand their IPs, which is why you saw Zelda on the CDI, obviously the Mario film and such. They were trying to toy with how can we branch out. The problem is not many IPs ever did that. It was still very much first party exclusives with your third party companies. No first party went on to other media platforms. Sonic kind of did with TV shows, but I digress. And they kind of panicked and
Right.
they fucked up heavily. So they were like, "Oh shit!" So Nintendo went very closed off at this point, and that's why we have Nintendo where it is, where they won't lend anything out unless they have creative control the entire way through.
Mhm.
They're very paranoid.
Right.
It's because Nintendo Japan are very strict. Rightfully so, they have very high quality standards.
Like it was kind of randomness, but now you have overly like Bibles basically worth of stuff with tons of games and all these. Like, look at what happened with the
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat movie that came out 2 years ago. Nobody could just enjoy it for what it was because they're like, oh, it didn't follow this continuity of the games. It's like, well, most of us have not played those 20 games, guys. Most of us have not picked up a Mortal Kombat game since Mortal Kombat 3. Like,
I think
Well, they're making
something
a
like
sequel
Mortal
for that, right?
Kombat was always going to be difficult to weave into
Yeah.
a movie because it doesn't really have a narrative. It's a fucking fighting tournament game, and it's just
It's the same for Mario, is it not? I'm confused what the difference here would be between Mario and Mortal Kombat.
I think it's
Mario doesn't really have a narrative. Just you get to the castle and you get Peach. Most of it is just platforming gameplay.
I think it's more so like Mortal Kombat doesn't have a concrete premise, but I don't know that much about Mortal Kombat stories. There are
Well,
stories
every
in
Mortal Kombat has a campaign, which is more story than the Mario game has.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll
I
have
think
stories. They're just not very good.
if I were to write,
It's
if I
sort
were
of a new excuse for them to fight. Like, it's like the Injustice ones where like
Yeah.
they show up to a location, have a bit of an argument, and suddenly they fight. That's just it.
if I were to write a Mortal Kombat story, you'd have a new character as the challenger, and he has to rise the ranks against the established Mortal Kombat characters.
Mhm.
That'd be my premise.
Yeah, that's usually how they do it. They establish a new character and they have them fight all the established ones.
Wasn't that basically like the latest movie where it was like an original character fighting over the original characters?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that was the
Because I know
old
that-
one as well. I think that was just I think that's just the premise they always do with these films.
Yeah, because like I know that like the new one had to like tease Johnny Cage as like the next protagonist or something.
Yeah.
just want to see
exactly.
people get their fucking
It's
skulls
funny-
ripped out of their body. But
As a
You-
guy who's played a lot of Mortal Kombat, you're so wrong, but for the right reason, I would say like the Mortal Kombat is heavy with narrative.
don't you tell me what I
Oh,
am,
yes.
Mauler.
You
No,
know what the
seriously,
best part,
it's,
Mahler?
Mortal
Have you-
What? Why did Drinker do that? I was just like, it's kind of a funny thing Mahler said. It's like, what? Okay. Anyway, I like what Mahler says. Like, no, the game is strong with narrative, as in like it has a lot of narrative. It just is bad. It's what you said, right, son? So
it is. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Mahler begins again proving he's the best one in here. Shocker, I know, but yeah.
Have you ever read the original script? You know what sucks is if we'd have got the original script, more people probably would have liked that movie. The guy who wrote Wonder Woman 84 came in and destroyed that script, though.
It doesn't surprise me.
Well, to take a more conventional example, say if you were to, well, The Last of Us was a good example of a very narrative-driven game, and so
Yeah.
that's relatively easy to adapt because you've got a linear plot.
Yeah, they basically did it 1-to-1 for most of it. The small changes they did were either for structure reasons or just kind of not just retelling the same story. So the stuff you have with Bill and Frank, for example, is just like, let's not tell the same stories we did the game. Let's make it different and make it less of a barrier gaze kind of thing. So,
Like in theory, something like the Uncharted games should have been really easy to adapt.
Yep.
yeah, but they didn't
Yeah.
adapt the games, right? They did it like a
Well,
prequel
they
time.
kind of did like a mishmash thing because the first game, it takes elements from 2 and 3 in the first game, but like it's at a weird point because it's saying it's a young Drake story, but like Tom Holland's only like 5-ish years younger than Drake in the games, and it's just a weird sort of mishmash because it would be so easy to make a movie. Just do an original adventure. Don't basically just take bits from Uncharted 4 and splice it in with other ones. It just doesn't work. And the weird part is that the post credit scene seemingly sets up that they're gonna do the first game. So it's like it's such a weird adaptation. It's just weird.
It is weird. Also, Nathan Dillion should have been Nathan. Drake.
Him as Drake and Bruce Campbell as Sully would have been just perfect.
Yes.
Because
Nathan
they
Fillion. I said Dylan. I'm Nathan Fillion. My brain right now. I swear. Anyway.
to adapt.
Yep.
Because they've got like classic adventure stories with like well-developed characters, good action sequences that you could adapt quite easily. They just fucked it up because they tried to tell an original story with completely the wrong casting.
With a little boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little boy. I think that's a weird way to call. I've seen that film. Little boy, very weird. Is he just saying that because he doesn't like Tom Holland? Is that point?
I mean, Tom Holland's like 25. He's nearly he's like close to 30 than he is 18.
Yeah, Tom Holland. 26.
Yeah, so he's pretty much he's like an adult now.
You guys gonna turn 27 this year? Yeah.
He has a bit of a baby face, but
Yeah,
he's-
he looks
he's-
young, but it's just weird. That's a weird thing to say. He's a baby. Whatever, man. I think I'm just kind of done with this video. They've strayed so far from the point, and I'm just like, yeah.
It's like, is this even about superhero movies dying?
But to be
Just
fair,
because-
this is a clip from one of his streams, so I wouldn't. So that's why I'm not as judgmental on the fact that they went on tangent, because it is tangentially related. They're comparing it to the way superhero movies have become formulaic. But they have strayed far from the point because it is a stream, so I think that's fine. If it was like a structured, scripted video, then I would take more issue with it, I think.
True.
I mean, yeah, when our streams they go on very weird tangents all the time, so I think it's fine if this one does too.
In theory, that should have worked really well, but like you could take something like the Metal Gear Solid games, for example, or things like that can be done because they've got very strong narratives woven through them. And I think maybe
I don't think you need a strong narrative to, because like Sonic, do the games have like strong narratives, or is it just usually like, oh, excuse to have a new level?
If we get to Sonic stories, some of them have a strong narrative, some of them don't. So like,
Yeah, strong as in
Event-
meaning like prominent, as in like actually like part of the story, not strong as in meaning good. Just clarifying for chat, as in like,
Okay.
it's not narrative focused enough.
so it's hard to explain. So like the classic games, I'd say have a strong narrative. Each level you have a reason to go there,
Mhm.
and stories growing. The adventure games, Heroes, 06, that's when it got really strong, and
Right.
really story indulgent. Then it got criticized. Unleashed was a bit of both. Sometimes you went to a level for the sake of going to a level to clear Eggman's robots. It wasn't really story tied. Colors, basically level to level. Generations, level to level. Lost World. Frontiers is again very story related. So it varies. It depends what their goal is on the focus of story.
Right. And
It's-
with like the films, both films, are they adapting like the story heavy ones, or just like getting the general idea of the lore and just adapting it into film form?
Sonic the Hedgehog 1 feels like a prequel to everything.
Mhm.
Sonic 2 is definitely adaptation of Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 together,
Right.
in which you've got them meeting Tails, and Tails going along for the adventure, fighting against Knuckles. That was a huge part of Sonic 3.
Mhm.
Eggman wants the Master Emerald to fuel his Death Egg plans, very major part.
Mm.
So I'd say they were adapting heavy story beats.
Right. Well, anyway, because I wanted to use Sonic to disprove his point. There's just like, oh, if you try to tell an original story with a video game, that's the problem. You have to adapt story-driven ones. But Arcane is the perfect example. The League of Legends isn't story-driven. Arcane tells an original story with the characters from the game, and it does it so very, very well. Very different from what the games are. Like people, I've seen a lot of people talk about the differences in Jinx as a character on the game and on the TV show. On how the game she's way more like the Jared Leto Joker type, of just the quirky, like, you know, Harley Quinn type, whereas in the TV show she's actually like a character, despite her being insane and having the quirks that she has in the games. It's way more justified. She's way more angry. She's way more of a character in the TV show than she is in the game. So yeah. And obviously the game is not at all narrative focused.
The Last of Us opened the floodgates to that.
So yeah, that was the video, people.
Woohoo.
Whoa. That started out, I don't know, I guess we talked a lot about many different things. I don't even know how to describe the stream. We talk about a lot. I do feel like it's an interesting topic though, the idea of how superhero films as a genre, and like the trend of like how they're performing, because usually you just look at Marvel, but there's so much more than just like Marvel itself. You have things surrounding Marvel. You have, you know, Sony, which is Marvel but also isn't, and those films, they perform well compared to their budget, like the Venom films. But then you have films like DC movies that currently are doing really poorly, but they're probably gonna start doing well again once, you know, we restart the DCU. It's like, it's hard to compare. Then we have the Batman, which is also a different universe, still part of DC, but doesn't really get into the DCU, and that did well. So it's like, how can you say it's dying or not? I feel like it's just a very hard thing to like say in itself. You know, that a thing is bad or not. Was Jack Black in The Mandalorian?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay. Because there's one of the thumbnails here is Drinkers chases the Mandalorian is dead, and it's just Jack Black. I'm like, what?
Yeah, he was
that
in the
that
recent
was-
one.
That was like, I love Jack Black in anything, and I saw him in that, and I was like, this isn't good. Lizzo's even worse. I don't. So out of nowhere.
You're just fat phobic.
Yes.
You're just Jack phobic.
Hey
Yeah,
yo! Wait, but his name is Jack. That doesn't work. Retreat. So yeah, I don't. I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna stream with Madvik and Shandy in like an hour, playing Minecraft. So my brain needs to be alive for that. But yeah, I don't know. That video wasn't terrible. It was just them talking, and I feel like a lot of it, because it is speculative, and a lot of it is them trying to figure out patterns about how movies are performing. It isn't like the worst that they've said, especially Gary, despite him being the dumbest on the panel.
Yeah, well, Gary said much worse stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Tom Connors he just there, I guess.
Mhm.
He just said dumb stuff. Drinker was again just all there, and Mulder, at the risk of sounding like a dick rider again, he's the one that made most sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just to be fair, I do feel like the times that I agreed with like Drinker was because he was talking about like in general terms. Because when he says, "Oh, these movies are bad," he means like woke stuff. Whereas when Mahler says, "I'm like, no, that's he's not saying woke." You know, I agree with him. I can understand what he means when he says bad. When Drinker says it, it's just like such a nebulous term. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I agree with the premise that, you know, these Marvel films are bad, and that contributes to, you know, the lack of making money. So yeah, Marvel stinks. DC is gonna be good soon, and that's the takeaway from this. Just need to wait for James Gunn to gun all of his James. You can tell I'm tired because I'm just saying things. I'm very sorry, chat. Okay. Minecraft. Yeah, I'm gonna be streaming with Madvocate and Shandy very soon playing Minecraft. So if you guys want to see that, we're gonna try to speed run Minecraft. So yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna go really well, I'm sure. Shandy has never played Minecraft before, so yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we made him buy it so he would play with us.
No,
Please troll him. Please.
Oh, Jeb, I'm not you.
Oh.
no, just genuinely how?
I don't
How
know.
have you gone like the past 10 years and not played Minecraft?
I don't know, man. She just. They're like, oh, Magic is like, Chan, did you own Minecraft? You could play it. It's like, no. It was very weird. I forgot I was gonna say. Oh yeah, I said this before, way earlier in the stream. I'm gonna mention it again. Flash is back. Hopefully this Sunday. Depends on how fast I can edit. I have been editing it. It will be a stream, Shell Shock. Don't worry. I actually stream to my personal channel, my point of view, and then you can watch either my stream or Madvicate's. Watch mine because I need the views more than he does. But yeah, Flash is gonna be back this Sunday, hopefully, and then I'm gonna try to upload weekly, till the season ends. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if it will be out this Sunday. Depends on the amount of time I have. Because today we had ECUM, and then I'm gonna stream again right after. But tomorrow I think I can finish editing it, and yeah. So for those who are asking about the Flash, it's gonna be back soon. Better than ever. That's untrue because episode 3 is the best, but you know. Actually, Jeb thought episode 4 was more entertaining than 3, so you know he doesn't deserve living.
Yay.
Yay, I agree.
Nice.
And we have watched every episode that has come out so far. So like, if you guys keep asking, oh, you should watch the other episodes. We have. The other episodes are gonna come out. Don't worry. Okay, chill out. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're good to leave off. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Futurama is getting a revival series. Completely
No,
forgot.
let it end. I love Futurama. Don't butcher the ending. Oh.
No, Jeb, it'll be great. Are the original writers back?
I don't know. I know the original cast is. Let me
Well, yeah,
check.
but that's not the same.
Writers back. Apparently from original creators. So yeah, Groening and David X. Cohen.
Oh, so it's gonna be good. Don't worry, Jeb.
I sure hope so.
I mean, if the original writers are back, the chances are way higher than if they weren't. All right, with that mildly good note out of the way, we're gonna end the stream there, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks everyone who stayed with us today. Our drinker streams usually do well, and this one did too. So not surprising, but good nonetheless. We'll catch y'all next week with ECUM 69, the funny number. If any of you guess what we will be covering next ECUM, you will get a hug personally from Zod. So
You'll get 69.
you get 69 by Zod, yes. So all you need to do is guess correctly in the comments or in chat if it's before we end the stream. And yeah, and Zod is tied with this contract that he has to 69 you. So yeah, he can't really get out of it. Yeah. So yeah, with that out of the way, I hope that wasn't the thing that got us demonetized today. Because if that would be very sad. Anyway, we'll catch y'all next time, folks. Bye bye.
Bye.
Goatface.
Okay.
Gold face.
Say Goatface, chap.